Today we talk about one of my favorite topics, which is building wealth. Not because money is important, but because it's important for you to grow as a human being. That is to improve yourself, to make progress. Those are actually the things that make you happy. I bet you didn't know that. You thought money was the outcome. No, it's not. I got a number of notes here that I'll go through. Of course, per usual, you can send in your comments, questions using the super chat feature or the information below. Those questions, comments that are $15 and above, I will answer and address for you right now. May I advise you to take advantage of this because this is the closest you'll get to being able to get a business consultation as we're talking about money, finance, entrepreneurship, your come up, your side hustle, your main hustle, all of those things. But remember, despite this being a money focused conversation, please know that my recommendation to you all is that you pursue happiness. Money may be on the road to happiness. It may be a foundation, but it is not, in fact, happiness. You don't count happiness in dollars. It's not measured in dollars. It's measured in smiles and laughs and warm feelings with your family. Now, let's talk about this guap. Shout out to Reagan. He writes, I really do appreciate your work, Saint. Could you make a video on business proposals and break down how to negotiate like a boss? Very good question. I wouldn't make a video on business proposals for 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is the truth is when you're early in your business journey, which presumably you are, based on your question, most of the important deals you're going to do don't require a proposal. That's number 1. And if they do, it's just a formality. Then number 2, business proposals are usually industry specific. So maybe the wisest thing to do would be book a consultation with myself or anyone else that has some experience with this kind of thing, and then I would put it together. But before I do that, I'd be very certain that that deal is going to close. Often people lie when people say, oh, send me a proposal. Well, they're just putting you through some hurdles and steps that are really, in many cases, unnecessary. When you're early in B2B, which it sounds like you're business to business sales, this is going to be dealing more so with smaller companies. When you're dealing with smaller companies, you're engaging with the owner operator, which means they're the boss. They can make the decisions. So sometimes when they say, oh, hey, give me a proposal, they're sending you on a dummy mission that'll take up your time and your resources. I have in the past done consultations wherein it was just about creating the business proposal. And I think it was very successful. There were 2 different industries, one of which the young man was essentially a web developer. He was really operating as a middleman, but he was a web developer. We actually whipped it up within the space of the consultation, delivered it, and it converted. But I want you guys to know, get high levels of certainty before you create that business proposal. I've had experience in this running several companies, but specifically a B2B company. And I had a number of people run me around asking for a business proposal, knowing that they never intended to buy. One of the most important things, tools you can have is discernment. And when you're thirsty and young and hungry, you want the deal to close, but you're not keeping your eyes open and your ears open and really understanding that other person. Sometimes that's our challenge. Nathan, who just got Conference 2 footage. Conference 2 footage teaches you about entrepreneurship, specifically product development, marketing, sales, and also relationships and leadership. Really, a lot. He writes, I've been reading my son The Black Box. Yesterday, we got to a chapter with the N word, and he had never heard it or knew the meaning. Do you think I should proofread it or not shelter him from the truth? I think that you should proofread it. In fact, it is not your responsibility to be one who hides the truth, but it is your responsibility as a parent and a father to be a protector. Sometimes that involves filtering information. So I think that's worthwhile. And I'm very excited to release the Book of Dark Truths. I know those who attended, it'll bring back great feelings, being there in the audience and the knowledge that was shared. And what you'll see with my conferences is it's not just lecture, it's not just education, it's relationship building, it's dialogue, it's brotherhood, it's inspiration, it's rejuvenation. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of work, but I do very much so enjoy it. So shout out to the folks who were wise enough to invest in themselves. You heard me? You got to love yourself to invest in yourself. Most people don't. Let's be real out here. Now, title of this lecture is behavior and thinking that keeps you poor. Now, oh, there's so much to discuss. We'll ease in. We will ease in. So many of you have thinking that keeps you poor. I can, in fact, tell a poor person by the nature of their comments. Sometimes I'll read a YouTube comment. I usually refrain from it. I'll read a YouTube comment or some of the chat, not the super chat, but the regular chat. And I'll yeah, this is a poor person talking. Poor people live lives without meaning. They have no goals. They don't believe in themselves. So time has very little value, hence they'll waste it, even though time is a great capital. And those who learn from me, who really soak up the ism, especially the men, when they speak with purpose to achieve an outcome. And when I see people write certain things, I think, oh, did you think through that? What was your goal or outcome? I want you all to remember that asking why at the right time is a good question. Asking why is not always a good question. Why is the ceiling not falling down? Who cares? The ceiling is staying up. We're safe. Let's carry on. We could why to death. I remind you that one fool can ask more questions than 1,000 wise men can answer. So remember this, and someone send this to me on IG so I can add this to the catalog of brilliant quotes that constitute Marquettism. Asking why at the right time. That's the key. Asking why at the right time. Also opening your mouth at the right time. What you might not realize is, especially as a male, when you open your mouth to say something foolish or ignorant, it causes people around you who are not foolish, who are not ignorant, who are not poor, to remove themselves from you, to not want to be around you and to judge you. We're going to ease in here. We're easing in. I'll give you a quick example that you guys may be familiar with. You may have seen this around. Obviously, I go live doing various things. And I saw one person write on a comment when I was doing a workout. They write, so-and-so, I don't remember the name of so-and-so. They say, so-and-so says hitting the speed bag is pointless. Okay. What was your goal? Was your goal to help me out? Was your goal to teach me something? Was your goal to look smart? Was your goal to promote the other person? So-and-so? What was your goal? You know what I actually think the goal was? It's the goal that a lot of common people, average people, also known as poor people, commonly known as losers, is the same goal they have. To express themselves thoughtlessly, to be heard, to try to matter when they don't matter. Something that would have been more impactful, helpful, useful, he would have said, hey, Marquette, check out what so-and-so pro UFC fighter says about hitting the heavy bag or hitting the speed bag. Or he could have said, hey, Marquette, I did a whole video about why hitting the speed bag might not help you achieve your goals. So he can promote himself, which I don't really respect, but it's smarter. He can achieve something, but just sharing information aimlessly, you don't achieve anything, and then you'll maybe be disliked, and certainly you'll be disregarded. Intelligent people, and I define intelligence by achieving outcomes, not by being pedantic or reading a lot of books or having a bunch of degrees. Intelligence is achieving your goals. That's what intelligence is. Generally, intelligent people have some money, right? Which means you consider Lil Boosie intelligent for sure. He's been able to stack up some money. There are people with college degrees in this very building who are living in poverty. Yes. But the point is, think before you speak. And when you're thinking, ask yourself this question, first and foremost. And I tell this to my staff all the time when they make suggestions to me. When they say, hey, we should do this or we should try that, I say, how much does that pay? What's the profit in that? Then they think about it. Oh, well, that didn't pay anything. We're running a business here, so let's not waste time with that if it doesn't pay anything. Got to pay something, maybe pay in dollars, pay in relationship, pay in joy and happiness. But in a business, preferably it needs to pay in dollars. That's my preferred currency. Also, one thing I want you guys to take note of, and I noticed this very early, the moment I got out of living in poverty and I was able to be among those who are affluent or those who came from wealthy families, I noticed the nature of their conversation is radically different, which is to say it is not negative. You'll notice consistently people who are in the ghetto or have a ghetto mentality, their conversation is negative, it's gossip filled, it's jealousy filled. And when successful people hear that, they're going to step away from you. I promise you, they're going to step away from you. I often, oh, and here's a really important piece, and this is true in relationships as well. Remember, when you're the individual who is in the position of abundance or the power position or the strong position, you don't need anyone or anything. So when you decide to walk out of a relationship, you don't even have to notify the other person. What utility does it have? Because successful people, intelligent people are goal oriented, and so they're always considering rational decisions and saying, well, if I do this, what does it gain me? What's the profit? How much money does that make? So if they decide that you're an imbecile or you're lazy or you're useless, are they going to say, hey, Johnny, I just want to let you know you're a lazy person. I don't want to be around you, so you probably won't hear from me or see me. Or if you invite me somewhere, I'm going to either not respond or I'm going to tell you I'm busy, even when I'm not. They're not going to give you a PSA like that. They're just going to disappear. Shout out to Paul, writes, peace to the saints, appreciate you. The reason I want you guys to know that is because you go through your life thoughtlessly, burning bridges to success, burning down relationships that could be good, but you don't even know it. And I'm easing you in right now. I'm easing you in. Shout out to Alex. He writes, thoughts on business acquisition. Well, here's the truth of our world. And if you hear me saying, here's the truth of our world a lot, and what I say after that surprises you, you need the book of dark truths. That'll shock you. Here's the truth of our world. Unless someone is of retirement age and their kids are completely brain dead, which happens every now and then, there's no need to sell the business because it's a good business. Why would you shoot a horse that's winning a race? It doesn't make any sense. So people only sell businesses in peculiar circumstances, such as they are too old to operate the business, or they've been accused of certain charges that require them to remove themselves from the business. You know, when women trump up charges on men like Steve Wynn. Or it's a situation wherein they're restructuring their income and they say, hey, I'm making a bunch of money doing these things which are more profitable. I'll leave this to someone else. Or they need capital to do something that they're more interested in. But generally, if the business is turning a good profit, you don't have to be the owner operator. You can own the business outright and hire someone else as the CEO. So why would you shut down or sell the business? It doesn't make logical sense. And as much as that's the case, acquiring businesses is a suspicious thing from the side of the seller, the one who's selling the business, unless they just want a bunch of capital. Like there's something, there's always something under the hood I find that you're going to want to look into. He writes, would you ever purchase a cash flowing business? I have cash flowing businesses, so no, because generally people are dishonest and they're hiding things. So I don't want to have to purchase the business and then take 2 years to really understand how to operate and make it thrive and figure out what they've lied about and how they've cooked their books. There have been many instances of books being cooked. One thing you guys might not know is that I've often been brought on to have conversations about expanding corporations internationally or specifically into China. Even before I moved into Las Vegas, I was invited here a number of times by a European group that hosts major business conferences talking about how do you penetrate that Chinese market, talking about tech unicorns, talking about telemedicine and the policy implications, things like this. So I remember last time I was invited to one of these things, which was some time ago. I don't accept these invitations anymore because I'm not really knee deep in tech, and you really want to be abreast of things. But last time I was on one of these panels, actually here in Las Vegas, I think the Venetian hosted it, and it was a European group that had invited me. We were talking about the WeWork debacle. WeWork was a co-working space that basically had a situation wherein the founder and CEO did some things that were not quite ethical. He was able to, walk away with a significant amount of money, but it turned out that his company was a bit of a hologram, or it was I don't want to use the word scam, but if you can think of a word that's really close but not scam, that's what it was. And so even with Theranos and the white chick who basically scammed all of Silicon Valley plus some, you got situations like that. I don't think it's smart to buy a business and then have to figure all that out. And if you do buy a business, you want to buy a business that's in an industry you know well. I would never, even though I figure it's pretty straightforward to, flip burgers and fry French fries, I would never buy a franchise restaurant. Why? I don't know how to cook in a kitchen at home, certainly not at a commercial level, right? I've never owned a restaurant. I understand the profit margins are not very good. It's heavy on employees. I just don't think it's a good business for someone with my level of skill and acumen. I think it's just a really silly idea. He writes, also, what are your thoughts on, this gentleman really packed this question. Shout out to him. I don't blame you. Also, what are your thoughts on real estate investing, fix and flipping? A lot of work. You're dealing too much intangibles. You're dealing in heavy assets that are hard to make liquid. You're dealing in a business that's very susceptible to macroeconomics, to what the Fed does to the interest rate. So I don't love that as a business. I personally, when I deal with real estate, I'm either buying a house that I actually want, and that's only when I'm like, I don't mind being in this location for 10 years, or I'm using the house as a checking account or as a savings account. But I'm never buying it like, oh, I'm going to make money from this. Now, there are people who do real estate, and the truth is, real estate is mentally ill people out here. It's crazy. Real estate is a business, and it's just not one that I like. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to start doing a series when I get a chance on different types of businesses, because there's so many businesses that you can't even think of. They're almost invisible to you. Recently, I did a deal with a guy, and I just did a nice little 8-minute video because it was a weird business to me. And I was kind of like, how'd you get into this? So I'll share that with you guys soon, so you can really expand your mind on the number of businesses and the nature of businesses, and also hear this guy explain how he figured out this was a business to go into, because he had no background in it. His job had some interaction with this market, and then he heard something. He said, boom, I'm getting into that business. Thank you for your question. But I want to remind everyone that if you have happiness or peace or goodness, it's a pattern. You should do everything to protect that pattern. And ladies, if you're watching, at some point I may come out with the femininity school, but the worst thing you can do as a woman is to interrupt a pattern of peace and happiness. That's like the worst thing you could do. Highly recommend against it. Oh, wow, we got to get those likes up. That's a pity. And remember, men, like, you never want to be in the position of a user. Many of you guys are members. If you're a member, fantastic. I appreciate you. You're the reason I'm able to do this work. Some of you may send in tuition. If you're sitting there, you haven't sent in a single dollar, you haven't clicked the like button, that's using. Hit the like button. It's free, costs you nothing. And I also want to give you guys some notes on thinking again. And I got a lot of notes here. If you guys support the work, we'll get through all of it. I think it'll be beneficial. But really mind your mouth. Minding your thoughts is critical. Minding your mouth is easier. Sometimes our thoughts get away with us, but our mouth you can control. There was one young man who had commented on a video I did on managing stress, which, mind you, that is a video better than what you would get at a therapist sitting on their therapy couch, or even in a university lecture hall in a psychology course on stress. Highly practical, things you can use today, and it was pure game flowing, and I remastered it so there was no breaking for the super chats. Guy writes on the comments, he says, oh, Marquette, this is so good. Once I get my bag together, I'm going to support. I don't believe you. And the best thing you can do is sometimes just be silent, because when you say, once I get my bag together, you have $1, you have $1, send it in, show something. When you come empty-handed, it's never a good thing. So understand that as a man, never show up empty-handed, and as much as possible, don't talk about what you're going to do. When you talk about what you're going to do and you have no credibility with someone, it's not going to go well. If I say, guys, I'm going to do an international trip fourth quarter of 2024, you're like, okay, Marquette, that's very credible. You've done 4 highly successful conferences. You have a lot of people who go to every single conference because they're that good. You recently did an international trip, which was highly successful. So if you say you're going to do an international trip in fourth quarter 2024, we believe you. You have credibility. But people have such a lack of self-awareness. It's like, dude, you're a random person on the internet I've never heard of. You're making a claim that is completely unbelievable. You don't have your true name. You don't have your photo. Have some self-awareness. You look dumb when you don't have self-awareness. You might not be dumb, but you look dumb. And your goal in life should be to look good. You know, be looking good is a critical part of success, I tell you. In fact, it's a critical part of feeling good. You want to look good. But remember this, don't ever fool yourself and say things like, oh, when I get my bag together, I'm going to do this. No, you're not. You're a stingy person. You're never going to do it. And it's okay. Just don't lie. What I want you guys to understand, and a gentleman that I used to study under, he said two things that just I'll never forget. And I took it to heart and I started living by it. He said, number one, he said, when you get your bill and you can pay your bill, be happy to pay it. That's manly. That's manly. I hate to hear people complaining about their bills. When I get bills and I can pay them, I'm happy to pay it. It's a celebration. So I don't whine about bills. I rejoice that I have them and that I can afford them. And then it's done. On to the next thing. That's manly. Second thing he said, actually, there's three things. Second thing he said, sometimes it's not necessary to negotiate on price. Someone sets their price. It's a reasonable price. Carry on. When you're going to do business on a friendly level, it's a good price. This is a friend or this is family. This is their price. Don't negotiate them down. Don't ask for a deal. Do business. Now, if it's a stranger, you hear me? If it's a manufacturer way over yonder, yeah, negotiate down as much as possible. It's business. It's entirely business and only business. Then there's a third thing that I wanted to give you, a gem. It was on money. And it was on money and giving. What was that gem? It was a good one. Yes, this is the gem. And this relates to the guy who says, once I get $1, once I get the bag, I'm going to donate. Well, that's a lie. I know it's a lie because I've been around people. I understand people. You see, right now you have $1, but you won't give $1. So there's no way in hell when you get $1 million, you're going to give 1,000. There's no way. What he taught me, this great teacher, is that percentages. Life is about percentages. That's why when people come in via Cash App or PayPal, I never say, oh, so-and-so came in for $3. So-and-so came in for $1. So-and-so came in for 10. I don't say, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's percentages. You see, some people, if they give $1, that's a percentage of their income. Some people, if they give $1,000, it may be the same percentage of their income as the person who gave $1. So life is percentages. So understand this. You'll be a happier human if you understand this. When the numbers are low, if you can save 10%, for example, if you can save 10%, if you can give 10%, when your income is low, surely when your income is high, you'll be able to do the same thing, which is to say, if you're making $100 a week and you say, you know what, I'm going to give $10 a week to my church, or I'm going to give $10 a week to the Assassin, and I'm going to save $10 for myself out of the $100 I make a week. Fantastic. Now, when you're making $1 million a week, you have no problem saying, I'm going to save $100,000 and I'm going to give $100,000 to this charitable organization. It doesn't have any feeling, even though it's $100,000. Why? Because you're paying attention to the percentages. Businessmen, we pay attention to details, numbers, percentages. You learn a lot about human nature when you spend time in Las Vegas, because there's so much money here, and money exposes a lot of human nature. For example, I've seen people inside of the casinos at the gaming tables, and I really don't mess with it because I tell you, gambling is indeed a vice. Every now and then, if I have someone come in from abroad, they're like, you're in Vegas, Las Vegas. Oh, I hear about Las Vegas. So pretty, so beautiful, light everywhere. Oh, gambling casino. I see on TV they throw dice. Roulette. We must. Yeah, Marquette, let's go. Let's go. I'm so excited. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll go in, check it out. I'm a tour guide here. And I watch people. I'm always watching people. One, because I want to know who I'm dealing with. It's safer to know. And you see a lot of human nature come out. So, for example, one guy walks up to a gaming table and he pulls out $100. Another guy walks up to a gaming table, pulls out $1,000. Another guy walks up to a gaming table, pulls out $100,000. And so they all have their chips. The guy with $100, the guy with $1,000, and the guy with $100,000. So then they start gambling. The guy with $100, 10 minutes later, he has $300. The guy with $1,000, 10 minutes later, he has $3,000. Guy with 100,000, start with 100,000. 10 minutes later, he has $150,000. Who won? Who won? Well, they all won because they're not gambling against each other. They're gambling against the casino. They all won because their money has increased. But what is the guy who had walked in with $100 thinking? What is he thinking? Huh? The guy who walked in with $100 is thinking, oh my God, this guy just won $50,000. The guy who started with $1,000, who now has $2,000. What is he thinking? He's thinking, oh my God, this guy just won $50,000. And those guys are either not feeling so good about what they won, or they're thinking, I got to keep gambling because I want to make money like he made. They're not feeling happy and satisfied. What is the guy with $100,000 thinking? He's thinking, oh man, yeah, I won. I ain't even those guys doubled their money. They must have been betting smarter. They doubled their money. Only got 150,000. I start with 100. That guy started with 100. He has 300. Actually, they tripled their money. He has 300. The guy who started with 1,000 has 3,000. They tripled their money and only got 150,000. You will never be happy when you're watching what other people are doing. That's number one. But number two, objectively and rationally speaking, the happiest people should have been the first two guys because they tripled their money. They're at 300% of what they started with. 300%. Businessmen watch the percentages, the details, the numbers. The absolute number doesn't matter. The percentages matter. If you got a 300% on your money, you won. Leave. That's a good day. I don't care if you started with 100 and you got 300, or you started with 100,000, you have 300,000 now. It doesn't matter. It's the percentages. You tripled your money. That's a win. But people are not thinking like business people. And so the guy who tripled his money is looking at the other guy, the big fish, who started with 100,000. Now he has 150,000. He didn't even double his money. On absolute terms, yes, he has more money than you, but you will never win in this world, in the business world, when your mind is not truly rational. And if you're poor or if you're low income, you need your mind to be more rational than an average person, or more rational than a wealthy person, because you're trying to come up. You're coming from a deficit. A deficit. All right. Yeah, I've seen it so many times. Or check this out. Just one more thing, since we're in Las Vegas. You go to the gaming table. One guy starts with $100. One guy starts with $1,000. Another guy starts with $100,000. As soon as they put their chips on the table to play the game, the guy with 1,000 and the guy with 100, they're like, whoa, that's so much money. That's not your money. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that's so much money. It's not your money. It's not your money. Focus on your game. Are you there to win, or are you there to gawk over this other person's money? Are you there to win, or are you there to gawk at the other person winning? What are you there for? Focus, lock in, pay attention to what you're doing, dummy. You're gambling money. Money's a serious thing, especially for someone like you who doesn't have much. How about that? Problem is, people who don't have much money, they talk, they think, they behave, they shop and consume like people who do have money. That's a problem. That is a problem. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Yes, indeed. And you see this stuff consistently. By the way, mods, if you see anyone hate at any level, get them up out of here, because they're no use. They're no use to me. Get them up out of here immediately. And that's the job of haters, because haters are demons on earth. Haters are devils on earth. I don't care what your Quran told you. I don't care what your Bible told you. The ism told you is that the devil is not down below. There are devils on earth walking amongst us. And because they are wicked, jealous, hateful persons, what is their chief duty? To distract you from happiness, from goodness, from progress, from earning well. Get them out of here immediately. Have no mercy. No mercy, and do not delay. May I acknowledge Khalil. Let's see. Comes in via Cash App. Let me get back to that one. Shout out to Joseph, writes tuition. Khalil comes in via Cash App. Sends in his question via email. He writes, are you still having trouble hiring engineers for the app in the practicum? Recently found a resource I think can help expand the network of potential opportunities. Should I email you the resource or send it in the course Discord chat? Not Okay, got you. Well, I appreciate that. Actually, I have an abundance. We've changed strategies. I have an abundance of opportunities right now. Send it anyways. One more is something that I'd be interested to look at, but I got an abundance right now. Things are going well. We get into it. May I also acknowledge Joseph sent intuition. Shout out to Roy with the baller alert. He writes, peace to the saints. First time supporting the work. May we all commend him for doing something new. And I encourage you guys, doing something new, that is the start of your fortune. I promise you. And I don't commend people because it benefits me. I commend them because it benefits them. And I want people to follow after that, doing new things. This is a new background. Have you noticed? We have a new camera setup. You don't see a podcast mic right in front of my face. Doing new things. This is also known as innovation in business. Come on now. I'm serious about that. You gotta know how to move and groove. When you run out of game, you run out of money. Shout out to Darren, sends in by Cash App. Shout out to Zay, sends in the question by email. He writes, hello, Saint. I live with my parents and my girlfriend. I'm 21. My online business did 12K cash collected last month, 17K in revenue. Okay, so your language is a little bit funny here. Let me know if we're having any mic issues as I bring this closer, please. But let's take a closer look at this because we want to make sure we understand. Asking questions is really important to get understanding. Also, when you ask people questions, they feel like you're listening, and more than likely you are. So he writes, I live with my parents and my girlfriend. I'm 21. My online business did 12K cash collected last month, 17K in revenue. This month we did 12K in revenue with 4K cash collected so far. Okay, so I'm assuming you're saying that the last month 12K hit your bottom line, which is after all expenses were paid. You had 12K in profit, and then this month you had 4K in profit, which means that you are either experiencing seasonality, you're experiencing some kind of irregularity. You need to figure out your business. He writes, I want a new car. Oh, you want a new car, do you? Do you already have a car? What's the current state of your existing car? He writes, I want a new car, but I also want an apartment. You want a lot of things, my dear boy. Why do you want an apartment? What should I do? Well, okay, let's read the whole thing. My car is old and rusty, but I also want my own place. I do have significant savings, 40K plus, with no debt. He writes with basically no debt. It's either no debt or it's debt, right? So just say what it is. Most of my savings came from my settlement from my accident years ago. I understand. Shout out to you. So number one, when you're 21, you don't know how young 21 is. I look back at photos when I was 21 and I'm like, damn, am I 16? When you're 21, you're very, very young. And in as much as that's the case, you have a lot of life to live. And I want to tell you that if your parents are not getting on your nerves and annoying you, continue saving money until you figured out your business. And you might say, Marquette, I'm making money. I have figured out my business. You figured out your business when revenue is a bit more predictable. Ideally, it's not doing this. Ideally, it's not plateauing. Ideally, it's trending upwards, however incremental. But that's when you understand your business, when it's trending or the revenue is predictable. So for example, if you're in the beanie business, you sell very warm beanies for skiing. Well, if that's the case, you know that you're in a seasonal business. So as a result, you might see revenue very high in December and then revenue will dip in the summer months. So as a result, that's a predictable thing. So what I recommend to you is that you're able to understand your revenue, map it out. Thereby, you'll be able to map out your expenses and your personal budget. So that's number one. Figure out your business. Figure out what your revenue is going to look like each month and a year. Then number three, you don't have any major problems with your mother, your father, or living in their home. I'd stay there. There's no reason not to. Because if I understand correctly, you live there and your girlfriend lives there. So you have in-house vagina, and presumably she's a productive person. When you say your car is rusted and all that other stuff, I believe you, Brody. When I was 21, Okay, I drove a Nissan Sentra when I was 21. It's not a bad car. Probably not as messed up as yours sounds, but it's okay. If I were you, I'd probably rather hold on to that car till it falls apart. Maybe I'd stop if you really want a new car, I'd stop paying maintenance, right? I'd start going cheap on everything just to keep it running. And once it falls apart, then I would get a car that is more suitable for my income or how I want to appear or look or enjoy my life. But remember, at age 21, people don't expect you to be driving a very impressive car. You're not going to get huge returns from the car. Like at my age, people see me driving a certain kind of car. They're like, oh, I can do business with this guy. At your age, if you were driving one of my cars, they'd be like, oh, that's his father's car, right? They wouldn't even take you seriously in it. And so you want to make calculations as to why you do certain things. I'd probably wait if I were you. Thank you for that question. May I acknowledge via PayPal? Shout out to Frank. He writes tuition for the rare, valuable knowledge on YouTube. Also encouraging others to cut out the Google corporation. Peace to the saints in a real way. This man, Frank, wise. Frank, very wise. You see, when you vote, sometimes you vote with your feet. Leave. Huh? Shout out to Joshua supporting the work as well. Good to see your name. May I acknowledge Irvin. Shout out to the SoCal section. Irvin, good brother. One thing about Irvin, and it's so nice, I've had the pleasure of meeting the Saints, sharp dresser, real game spitter, and he gets his marathons in. That's a great man to me. That's the kind of guy I like being around. That's the kind of guy, we're out on a run. If it crossed my mind to slow down or to stop running, boom, he right there. I can't slow down. I like that. Those are the quality of men you want to be around. Shout out to Irvin. May I acknowledge Walton writes, tuition, think and grow rich. Peace to saints indeed. Classic. May I also acknowledge Onward. He writes, keep building something great. Sir, yes, sir. May I acknowledge Austin sends in tuition. Shout out to Irvin. Came right back, writes, peace to saints tuition. Shout out to Dwayne. He writes, Marquette, your attire is too fresh. Peace to the saints. I appreciate you. Custom handmade. And one thing I want you guys to remember again is that people who are not winning at life, they will despise you for winning. You heard me? They will despise you for winning. And that's why you'll have people in the comments saying silly things, and you'd be a fool to argue with them or to engage them. That's why I empower my moderators. Just block them. It doesn't matter. Block them. Make them disappear. You see, because it would be foolish for me to sit here with this gold on gold thing with canary diamonds in it, the velvet pimping, and the green velvet, as shout out to the OG said, gold for the money, green for the honeys. No, that's backwards. Gold for the honey, green for the money. Shout out to him. I'm sitting here custom tailored. It wouldn't make sense for me to argue with a peasant. So I encourage you guys, if you're a king, do the things of a king. Say the things of a king. Don't be lower to deal with peasants because that's their goal. That's the only way they get any emotional variation in life because they don't get to go hop on a private jet. They don't get to fly around the world and deal with beautiful women. They don't get to make big investments that are exciting. You heard me? They don't get to build products that are out in the world. People don't walk around the society and say, oh, hey, man, I watch your stuff or hey, I follow you. They don't get those experiences. They don't have women walk up like, hey, I read your book. It's awesome. They don't get that. They got to try to steal their joy from you, from doing something hurtful or mean to you. Just ignore them. They're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. And I saw a young man outside of Assassin HQ earlier. He was very angry, yelling and cursing on the phone. And honestly, initially, it was killing my high. I was like, bro, do that down the block. But then I looked at him and I said, you know what? I've been that angry before. He was enraged, actually. He was enraged. I was like, I've been enraged before. And it first crossed my mind, is there something I could tell him when I see him when he's calm that might give him some light? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I remember being there at that level, and I thought, I can't remember the last time I was in rage. Progress. That's what you guys all want, progress. But also, I can't remember the last time I was around someone that was in rage. That's important, right? Birds of a feather flock together. You want to be around people who reflect what you are. You want to remove yourself from situations where people don't reflect what you are or what you want to be. Carrying on. May I acknowledge Shamas writes, Peace of the Saints. There was a live you did, and you were mentioning to not let a woman take you off track. For real. A shout out to, I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not one who promotes Christianity or proselytizes, but the story of Adam and Eve is one of the greatest stories ever written, whether you're a religious person or not. It is a masterpiece of a story and speaks truly to human nature. He writes, not to let a woman get you off track. Yes, they will offer you that apple. Yes, they will. They will interrupt the pattern of peace. Yes, they will. They will stop you from working and do it with a smile on their face. He writes, missing meetings, workouts, etc. Yeah, it's your job to stay focused. Discipline. He writes, could you direct me to what live this was? Thanks in advance. Hell no, I couldn't. I don't know, man. I've not a clue. I have over 1,000 videos, over 1,000 live sessions. I have not the foggiest idea, admittedly. But I'll reread your message, and maybe one of the folks in the audience can do so because they're pretty sharp. Shamas writes, there was a live you did when you're mentioning not letting your woman take you off track, missing meetings, workouts, etc., as when the woman's gone. You are left off track. Could you direct me to this live? And so what he was saying is that when a woman interrupts your discipline and your good practices and gets you far enough off track, when you lose her, she breaks up with you, divorces you, finds a different guy, cheats, whatever. When she's gone, you're still off track. Yeah. Don't play yourself. Do not play yourself. May I acknowledge Frank? He writes, shout out to the Grinch camping. It is. He writes, it's a beautiful day. Indeed, it is really a beautiful sunny day. It really is. Carrying on. May I acknowledge Onward writes, my first and last time in Vegas. My first and last time in Vegas. Okay, so his most recent time, which was also his first time. He writes, I won $500 from $20. That's an insane multiple. Like that's insane. That's huge. That's an astronomical win. To me, that's like winning the lottery because the multiple is so big, right? So you won 200. You start with $200, and you won 500, which means if you started with $200, which is not a ton of money, right? You start with 200, you would have won 5,000. If you start with $2,000, you would have won 50,000. I mean, it's insane. The multiple is just staggering. Shout out. That's really good, but that's the worst thing that can happen to you. And everyone, listen to this wisdom. The worst thing that can happen to you when gambling, you shouldn't gamble, but the worst thing that can happen is that you win. That's the worst thing that can happen. Why is that, Marquette? Well, I'll let you guys ponder on that one. Shout out to Mr. Thompson supporting the work. May I also acknowledge Nick writes, peace of the saints, tuition for the game and prosperity. Indeed. And all the saints in Saint City, God willing, this Saturday, we'll have our workout, 9 a.m., meet at Sasson headquarters. It's been really good. Shout out to D Haven. Real good workouts. May I also acknowledge Mr. Thompson comes in with a baller alert. He writes, tuition here for the game so I can earn in a real way. Shout out to Raymond, who just became a member at patreon.com/the Saint and the Sinner. May I acknowledge Robert writes, proudly supporting. I appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. Yes, indeed. And if you guys could let me know, I'm going to move this computer. Let me know if it causes any issues with the sound, because as you can imagine, I was doing some AV testing earlier, and I was getting feedback. Back now that I just set this computer here. If there's any feedback right there. And also let me know, what do you think of this look, this view versus the normal view that we have? Yeah, speaking of the moolah, business is business. There you go. I want everything I touch to either be made by me or made by you. Okay. Either the chat is locked or people are waiting for someone else to do it. It's a clear sign of not being a leader, waiting for someone else to do it, especially as a man. Says, I like the view, no mic in the way, agree. Thank you very much. And take that to heart. It's not an insult. It's advice. It's to wake you up. A clear sign you're not a leader. You're waiting on someone else to do it, whatever it is. Try to remove that from your personality. In fact, it's dangerous for a society to be devoid of leaders. There's a situation you all may have heard of, especially if you're from the East Coast. There was a person who was being stabbed to death within a tenement area. And, New York has those high-rise tenements and projects, and everyone's listening to the screams and they're looking out of their window, watching it. And as they're watching it, no one's calling the police. So the police never come, the paramedics never come. Why? Because every single person that was watching, being a sheep, they were waiting for the other person to call 911. They just assumed someone else called 911. That's correct. Bystander effect, which is to say that you're not on the playing field, you're in the audience. It's basically being a commoner, a sheep, a loser, a non-thinker, a non-actor. You want to be a leader. When you hear something, you should probably think, they're talking to me. Sadly, commoners and many times like modern women, they only think you're talking to me when it's something negative. It's weird. But as a leader, step forward, offer value. It will benefit you. Promise you. I promise you. This is comical. Shout out to Bilbert. He writes, Saint Marquette, which there's no E at the end of my name. He writes, you should start public speaking. I'm actually a decorated public speaker. I've received awards from public speaking from the time I was a teenager. I've spoken around the world to audiences in excess of 30,000. So I should start public speaking. I appreciate the compliment, but I've already been public speaking. I'm assuming you're new. If not, use a Google search, Marquette Burton. And there's a video that I put up recently when I was in my business life, expanding a corporation internationally. You can see me doing a ton of public speaking there. But yeah, I am the best in the world at this. By the way, in case anyone was curious, who's the best in the world? That would be me, your boy. That would be me. Yeah, indeed. Also, for those of you who would like to become great at communicating, and communicating is more than just public speaking. If you want to be great at communicating, marquettedevon.com. There's no E on Marquette. There's a course called the Master Communicator course. Get it? You need it. Carrying on. May I acknowledge Justin? He writes, happy birthday, kid. I appreciate that. Indeed, my birthday is tomorrow. I'll probably, hopefully list it today. I want to do a live. We'll take that as a time to reflect. I'll reflect on my year, what I put together in terms of the Assassin, which is the most important thing to me, all of our progress, and then charting a course moving forward. I think that's what birthday should really be about, times of reflection. Onward writes, last time gambling and my first time playing blackjack. Okay, good. Yes, gambling is terrible, and I can't say it enough. There's some things you hear me say on repeat, and that's because it's really, I'm certain about it. I'm not 80%, I'm 100% on it. Don't gamble, don't drink alcohol, don't consume drugs, don't use caffeine, exercise every day. I'm 100% on those things. Shout out to EJ. He writes, peace to the saints, appreciate you. Shout out to the hustlers. EJ has a great product at thesassin.com, THESASN.com. So a water jug, which I actually have. May I also acknowledge Kevin? He writes, tuition, I appreciate the value. Thank you very much. If only you could go to church and hear something you can use. You heard me? They be telling you these deep stories that don't make any sense half the time. Amazing. Carrying on. Let's get back to this work. Oh, yeah, let me acknowledge the folks who came in by Super Chat. Shout out to JN supporting the work. May I acknowledge the European section. As you can see in the map behind me, we put up some pins where we have sections. I actually still need to update that. And if you are a member, make sure that you tap in with your local section. If you don't have an organized local section, organizing. Yeah, organize it. Be a man. Create it. Man, also acknowledge Bayboy62. Shout out to all pimping, no simping. I may also acknowledge the big podcast writes Peace of the Saints. What is the email to send questions? It is that email right there, marquetteb@gmail.com. And if you send via super chat, do not send it via email. That's for people coming by Cash App or PayPal. Um, Google won't let you be grammatically correct. Yeah, that's because it's a censorship corporation. Go ahead and send it in. We'll address it. But it's hard to match them up. Shout out to Chris. He writes, salute for the ism. Can we ask lessons from a pimp questions? Yeah, have at it. Talk to you, boy. Shout out to Marco supporting the work as well. May I also acknowledge Tap In Productions writes, peace to the saints. I would like to encourage everyone to quit alcohol immediately. Don't even engage occasionally. No excuses. In a real way. I agree 1,000%. And I thank you for sharing that positive message with everyone. He spent $1 to save your life. That man spent $1 to save your life. Shout out to Lucas. He writes, peace of the saints. Just got the black box from Amazon, showing support. I appreciate you. You're going to love the book. Do let us know what you think once you've had a chance to get into it. I may acknowledge good for nothing, right? Peace of the saints. I'm 21 years old. I have the ideal situation in all aspects of my life, except my career. Well, that's pretty good. Shout out to you, honestly. Whereas my lady is down with the ism and brings money. That's a beautiful thing. I'm in school for IT now. Do you suggest I continue school or go to work as soon as possible? Well, if everything's working for you and your IT schooling is going to lead to a job that you want, gainful employment, always think of the long term. Yeah, it's the long term win. I acknowledge Chris. He writes, new relationship, girlfriend has gone out with a group of coworkers. Should I start to lay down ground rules now, or is that insecure to not assume she'll be upright? Peace of the saints. Here's the funny thing. Sometimes, I was just exporting the video for the Book of Dark Truths before I got on here, and there's a great lesson on this. There's a nice little infographic that we go through, and we talk about like what I call a woman's 35 points. And so basically there's different categories of a woman's like personality or things about a woman, and it goes from 0 to 10, but you only get 35 points total. So if you take some points out of, say, attractiveness, maybe they'll go here, but if she's a 10 attractive, she's going to be lower on something else, right? So you get 35 points. I say that to say this. In terms of the woman's, and I don't want to let out too much from the Book of Dark Truths, but let's just say this. She might go out with her colleagues and not do anything ratchet. But you also might just not want her in that environment. And if that's your values, that you don't want her in that environment, then you have to ask yourself, does she share those values, or can she respect those values in me while truly accepting it, being positive, not feigning compliance, not doing it begrudgingly? Because the moment she feels like you're clamping down on her, removing her agency and her freedom, and she's not independent, and then when she starts to view you or call you controlling, that's going to be the death knell to your relationship. But it makes sense in as much as you're not aligned. You want a woman that you're aligned with. So if networking, or I don't know if it's networking, if going out with coworkers is networking, and that networking she's using to get a higher position, and there's really truth there, it is what it is. But if she's just going out socially to have fun, then I really wouldn't want my old lady in a mixed group going out to happy hour with her colleagues. You go to work to earn money. And if it was my lady and she must go out in the world and work, then, you should have this is my ideal. She has a part-time job that she doesn't have to do. She works with all women and she can go hang out with them. If she works in a mixed environment, then when they're all going out socially, she's gone. Because I don't drink alcohol. My old lady doesn't drink alcohol. You don't even want to be in an environment with alcohol in it, especially if you're a woman. Because if people get a little bit inebriated and they start cutting up, can she defend herself? Maybe not. So I don't want her to create situations wherein I have to show up as a protector, because I'm a lion. When I show up, If they're not calmed down immediately, they're going to go left, and it's going to go all the way left with me. So it's always better that I don't have to show up to do any protecting. So that means she needs to make sure she's not creating situations where there's a necessity there. So understand this: some women are side pieces, some women are main pieces, some women are one hitter quitters. So you have to be able to categorize that. And is she you said a new relationship? Is she really a girlfriend? Have the conversation with her, but understand this: you'd be wise to not dictate, not lay down rules, but rather engage in discussion, ask her what she thinks, and then go from there. And if you're actually insecure, then that's your problem, not her problem. But in many cases, it's not insecurity. It's just that I don't want to be represented in this way. This is not how my family is going to live. You heard me? Wishing you much success there. Shout out to DeMarcus supporting the work. I acknowledge Jay supporting as well. Shout out to the real ones. May I acknowledge Reginald writes, peace to the saints. May I acknowledge Elliot comes in by PayPal. He writes, Mr. Burton, that percentage analogy was gold. A true, a former pastor's son from Bmore area trying to create a business empire. A lot is on my plate business-wise, and it's been getting delivered hot and ready at my door a lot lately. I'm consuming it. But some days I feel full, yet I'm still so hungry. Question mark. Peace of the saints and God bless. Well, Elliot, the most important thing I can tell you is this concept right here. Oneness and simplicity. Oneness and simplicity. A lot of people, they say, oh, I got a side hustle. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, you probably stupid, lazy, and broke when I hear that. Which you're like, Marquette, stupid, lazy, and broke? Just because they got a side hustle? Yeah. Well, why is that? Well, broke because if you really had something that was earning well, you wouldn't have to do 9 jobs, right? All these side hustles. That's number one. Then number two, lazy because you're not able to endure boredom, which means persist. Sometimes in a business, you just have to persist. It takes time to figure out your business or to learn your business. Just like I told the young man, figure out your business. Know how revenue is going to trend month to month over a given year in your particular business and industry. So that takes discipline. It also takes the ability to endure boredom. Maybe even the young man who said he's in IT school, that takes the ability to endure boredom. Now, certain levels of boredom you need to question, right? Like if you're taking an IT program and you're bored the entire time, you should be like, damn, is this what the job is like? If the job is like this, maybe I don't want this job. Use your brain. But you have to be able to endure boredom, and increasingly people are not able to endure boredom. I cannot tell you how tedious the technology business is, extraordinarily tedious. And I remember when I was learning development it was Ruby on Rails, which lets you know how long ago it was. But I remember it was quite tedious and boring. And eventually I realized, I think I'll be on the business side. I'm conversational in terms of technology, but I think I want to stay on the business side of things. I'd rather run the tech company, be Steve Jobs as opposed to Steve Wozniak. And that was a smart decision for a variety of reasons, chief among which is my personality. Thank you for that question. May I also acknowledge via Super Chat, Mr. Chambliss writes, watch out for Warquet. Thank you for your analysis on the gentlemen who say that America will start load shedding. Bruh, I'm telling you, with Warquet Zimbabwe. There's a list of cities ranked by number of billionaires. Any merit to relocating up? Well, it depends on your industry and how you make your money. Oh, and remind me also, chat, I actually am not watching the general chat, but if someone could remind me to go back to that piece about simplicity and oneness, even in your communications, it's critical in terms of driving revenue. But anyways, I like how you're thinking. That's really intelligent. But the critical piece is, how do I make my money, right? So if I'm into the oil business or I have a gold mine, I'm in mining, well, I want to relocate in places where that's a very strong business and I'm going to meet other players in that industry. That would be intelligent. It wouldn't make a lot of sense if I'm in high fashion and I relocate to Qatar just because there's a high per capita income. Well, Qatar is not good for high fashion. Maybe it might be good if you're an oil producer or you're in like the natural gas business, perhaps, but not for high fashion. So that's how you want to think about things. Now, I also still remember my point about simplicity and oneness. For example, last night I was out at a resort and had one of my favorite meals. But I was out at a resort that I hadn't been to in a long time, and I went to one of my favorite restaurants. And there was two couples, and one guy walks over and he says, "Hey, this suit is just it's I'm speechless, man. Like you got the turquoise lining. This is insane. Like this is custom. I already know. Like where did you get this done?" So we have a brief conversation. He's like, "Are you in fashion?" He's like, "Because the whole ensemble." He was like, "Man, the whole thing." And at that point, he said, "Are you in fashion?" Well, I could say, "Oh, I run a tech company. I run a YouTube channel. I run this. I do that. I do this. I do that. I invest. I do this. I'm a philanthropist." I could have said all these 30 things, which are all true. But what you really want to ask yourself is, remember that question. How much does that pay? How much do those answers pay? He's loving the suit, so he trusts my fashion sense. Smartest answer when he says, "What do you do?" or "Are you in fashion?" Yes, I am in fashion. mdblabel.com. I produce that. He's going to check it out. He's going to go shopping. That converts $1. Way smarter than saying, "Oh, I run a tech company," or "I run this business or that business," or this and that. Much smarter. Simplicity and oneness. I gave him one business that he can easily locate and go convert a sale. Simplicity. It's easy for him to remember. Now, is there more he could learn about me? Yeah, eventually, but it's not important in the moment. It's not going to convert the dollar. Listen. Shout out to Corey supporting the work. I appreciate it. May I acknowledge via Cash App the baller alert. Shout out to Eric, sends in the dough, but has nothing to say. He like, "Look, I got it like that." Okay, maybe he does. It looks like he came in with an email. Okay, let me check this out. He writes, "Thank you for providing the education to us, Mr. Burden. I asked you during the previous lecture if you had a lecture on Gaddafi, and you said it was on assassin. I searched for it. Type in the word Libya into the search bar. I think maybe that'll help you. Maybe type in Libya." He writes, "I wasn't able to find it." Give me a second. I'll make sure it's there. I'm highly confident. Let me just type in Libya. Yeah, that's correct. So type in the word Libya, Libya, Libya. Type that into the assassin, and it will pull the video right up. And it's a phenomenal lecture, very well researched. It was something that was very, I remember when this situation first occurred that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton presided over, and I was in university and graduate school at the time. I was deeply disturbed. It really was a sad thing to behold. There you go. Assassin.com, type in Libya. Sometimes we don't use the name or the term because we're in a censorship environment. So you'll have to forgive me for that. By the way, shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Heels In. Came back strong via Venmo. Sends in his baller alert. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Jordan. He writes, "Peace of Saints. I'm 19 years old studying financial economics in the United Kingdom. Do you think investment banking would be a good?" Yes, I do. Absolutely. And I personally know investment bankers. The first investment banker I ever met when I was in university, there was a gentleman named George A. Miller, and he funded a scholarship. He also funded microloans in Vietnam and various other things. But I remember talking to him. He was quite an extraordinary man and just very cash liquid, had a whole bunch of money. And investment banking is one of those pursuits you go into to make a bunch of money. If you're not going to do that, I don't know what you're going there to do. I highly recommend it. At some level, get the book of Dark Truths. That's all I got to say. Yes. Short answer is yes. Do it. Do it, and do it hard. Make a bunch of money. I want to see that for you. I want you to make so much money that whatever, like once you become wealthy, whatever the latest Rolls Royce is, you can buy that for me as a gift. And it means nothing to you. It means as much to you as sending me a $2 birthday card. That's what I want for you. Go get the money. Investment banking, it's there. Absolutely. And it won't be easy, but once you get it, once you understand, it will be easy. So it won't be easy getting in the door, figuring out things. But once you figure it out, it will be easy. You'll enjoy it. Highly recommended. And I don't recommend that to everyone. You have to have a certain kind of mind. You have to have mathematical competence. You have to have some gravitas. You have to have it takes a certain kind of person. You're going to be around sharks. You're going to be around real movers and shakers. You're going to be in financial hubs. UK is fine. London, New York. Of course, there'll be emerging hubs in the Middle East. So I'm excited for you. Good to hear. I love to hear people going for the big bucks. Behavior and thinking that keeps you poor. Oh, so much. Your emotions. Marquette, what do you mean my emotions keep me poor? How could such a thing make any sense, Marquette? How do emotions keep you poor? Untamed emotion is the enemy of performance. Untamed emotion is the enemy of performance. Sometimes that means getting angry. Other times that just means being irrational or being fearful, but being fearful about the wrong thing. For example, how do poor people think? Poor people are not long-term thinkers. Successful people, wealthy people, rational people, they're long-term thinkers. This is what I mean. Say you live in Los Angeles in a high rise. In that high rise, you could park on the street right in front of your building. Sometimes there's parking spaces available, sometimes there aren't. And there's a couple free ones, and then there's a couple that you have to pay to park. And of course, if you pay to park and it expires, you're going to get a parking ticket. Parking ticket in Los Angeles, I don't know what it is, but let's say it's about $50. Or you could pay to have garage covered parking in your building, which is $50 a month. Well, what does a poor person say to themselves? A poor person says, $50? I'm not going to pay $50 to park because there's free parking in front of my building, so I'm going to try to get the free parking. One day you come home, free parking is all full. So what do? You park across the street on the metered parking. Maybe sometimes you pay the meter. Maybe you pay the meter and the meter runs out. Then the meter maid comes through and gives you a parking ticket for $50. At which point you realize, oh, gee gosh, I could have just paid the $50 to my building and parked stress-free for the whole month in a covered garage for $50. But I didn't want to pay it. I wanted to use the free parking. I wanted to pay $2 for the metered parking. Well, you were using fear of losing money. Wise, wealthy people, they know money is a tool, so they use it as a tool. They know money can be used to invest, so they use it to invest as well as to invest in themselves. They're non-emotional about money. They're rational about money. Hence, they don't say to themselves, oh, I'm going to lose $50 paying to park when really I could just park for free. They're rational. Those free parking spots are going to be sought after by many poor people. So I ought not be one of the dumb ones counting on something that is not going to be available. Then I say, oh, well, I can park across the street. The meter parking is only $2. Well, if you were rational, you know that $2 adds up, doesn't it? Might even add up to 50 or more. That's how poor people think, meaning they don't think, they feel. They feel their way to the solution. They are ones who succumb to emotions. That's just in the case of parking. Well, what other ways do your emotions keep you poor? Listen to a young man who seems like a perfectly good young man. I'm sure he's reasonably intelligent. Listen to him yell and curse outside. Maybe talking to his baby mama, maybe talking to his girlfriend. Hell, who knows? Could be talking to his boyfriend. I don't know. But he was yelling and cursing and saying he's going to pull up and do X, Y, and Z for about 30 minutes, which is exhausting. Even to listen was exhausting. Now, what happens if he actually does any of the things that he says? Well, his emotions are going to cause him to catch a case, which is going to cause him to lose time out of his life, have to hire a lawyer, lose money. Your emotions, when they're untamed, they cost you dearly. One thing we mentioned briefly is vices. But what you guys don't understand are the true cost of vices. They don't only cost you in money, and this is mostly what you guys measure. You guys always want to measure the dollar, the pound, the euro, the dirham, but you never measure the time, the health, the happiness. Let's talk about some things that cost you in multiple categories, and it seems like they all do. We talked about gambling. The Quran even speaks about this. It says, some things may appear to be good for you, but they are actually bad for you. Some things may appear to be bad for you, but they are actually good for you. What do you mean, Marquette? Unfold that. Use the ism. Let me bless you. Well, that girl that she really is all about you, she's dedicated, loyal to you, she follows your programs, and she's just a 7, but you went for the girl who's a 10. Well, that girl who's a 10 in the face, she can't follow directions, she offers no service, has a bad attitude, and she's a little bit promiscuous. You wanted her though, thought she was good for you. She's really bad for you. That girl who she's a 7, but she dresses conservatively, follows your program, loves you to death. You thought, I ain't going out like that. Thought she was bad for you. Well, it turns out she's good for you. And she'd save you a lot of money, might even make you some money, whereas the other chick's going to cost you dearly. Some things may appear to be bad for you that are good for you. Some things may appear to be good for you that are bad for you. Marquette, why do you always speak against gambling? I won. I win. Yeah, but do you win more than you lose? Yeah, but when you add up all the dollars at the end, are you beating the casino? Because if you are, you're a genius. So there's a dual cost. Some things that appear good are bad. Some things that appear bad may be good. And when I say there's a dual cost, sometimes there's threefold you're being cost. When you're gambling, you're losing your money invariably once the dust settles. And then secondly, you're losing your time. Well, when you lose your time, there's opportunity cost, meaning the time you were spending at that blackjack table, that craps table, that roulette wheel, or whatever other forms of gambling there are, you could have been using that to build a business, network with high-level people, spend time with your family. There's an opportunity cost. You have to forego something else that was also good. And then what you also failed to calculate is after you lose, did you go home and start an argument with your old lady? After you lost, did you answer the phone in a state of not peace? It was an employer calling you back about your job application, but you answered the phone big mad because you just lost $300 and you didn't really have $300 to lose. So there's a cost to your finances immediately. There's a cost to your time immediately. And then there's probably the cost to your peace of mind. Come on now, we talking about it. Then you look at alcohol. It's a cost to your productivity. Yeah, you got slizzard. You were lit. Had the club going up on a Tuesday, did you? Well, then you had to wake up the next day early for work, even though you went to bed at 3 a.m. And alcohol actually, over time, adversely affects your sleep schedule. So you ain't get quality sleep. Now you're at work, you're grumpy, you're struggling through. You have a cost to your productivity, cost to your happiness, a cost to how people are looking at you. They could tell that you're hungover. Okay, that's a lot of costing there, huh? So when you drank alcohol, you actually lost the entire next day. Yeah, you lost the whole next day. And you also had to spend money. Think about if every time you would have spent money on alcohol, you put that money into a jar and saved it, you'd have at least 30,000, wouldn't you? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Same thing is true of drugs as well and cigarettes as well. And then even coffee, this is more insidious, caffeine in particular. But I'm gonna call it coffee. I'm gonna call it Starbucks because in our sick culture, which is matriarchal, we start to think that because something is commonplace that it's okay. People taking pictures of my cars out here. Let me take a look. Give me a second. And sometimes, like for example, I saw some folks out like taking photos of my car, and initially you're kind of like, yo, like what is this? The feds out here? The feds over here? What is this, like Godfather 1? Or, they're taking photos of the car. You're like, yo, like my license plate is in there and everything. But you also have to remember, I've unusually nice cars and very expensive cars that are uncommon. And so, people are taking pictures because they like the car. So something to be thankful for, even while, a little bit being paranoid. But that's how life changes, right? Like if you drive in a Honda, if somebody's taking a picture of your car and you drive a Honda, like you might need to go like ask what's going on. But those are the kind of things that I like to share with you guys because your life will change and your experiences will change and the way people relate to you will change. And it's not all good, right? People taking photos of my car. I'm kind of like, yo, like what's going on? I don't think that's necessarily a benefit, right? Like it doesn't benefit me for people to take photos of my car. And other things like, for example, where my office is and where my home is, there's a lot of foot traffic by my office, by Sasson headquarters. In my home, there's nearly no foot traffic, right? And if there is foot traffic, it's people, walking their dog or going for a jog or just strolling the neighborhood and with their family, maybe. But one thing what I want to point out to you guys is the nature of how people engage me. At my home, which is in a suburb in a gated community, people they wave, they say hi, they don't try to strike up a conversation most of the time. If they do, it's a brief, casual conversation. Um, People where my office is, because they can see like, oh wow, this guy's doing a lot of stuff. He has a lot of people coming in and out. Oh, what do you do? Or they're trying to tell me what they do, which is they're trying to sell something to me most of the time. They're trying to sell me something or do business with me. And often I'll have the doors open. We actually just put up a rope because people invite themselves in, trying to sell things. And, one of the saints, shout out to Gio, who came and spent a couple of days here at Assassin HQ, a couple of days back to back and just hanging out, working, chatting, planning. And, he was like, yo, like, what is up with this guy? Why does he just walk in like that? I was like, he's like, oh, is there money in here? I smelled some money in here. It's like, yeah, they came in and none of them have an offer. They all have a request. So out of the 80% of people who try to walk in here are like, hey, what do you do? What are you doing here? They all have a request. So what you're finding is that you're not a human being anymore. You're a dollar sign. You're not a human being anymore. You're an opportunity. And that's for strangers. That's for women that you deal with, for your dating experience. And so know that there's always a balance to things. And you have to be increasingly discerning because people will act like they like you when they don't like you, just try to get a dollar off of you. Even you guys, some of you who are watching, my assistant told me, I don't know when it occurred, because I always tell her, like, tell me everything at once. Like, I don't want you to tell me like 30 different things during the day. Tell me at the beginning of the workday and at the end of the workday. So I don't know precisely when this occurred. And she also prioritizes things so that I don't end up overwhelmed. So one day she had told me, she's like, hey, Marquette, one of our numbers was leaked. And someone had sent a text message this long asking to be hired to do X, Y, and Z for you. So clearly someone who watches the work. And she says, well, they said that they're a huge fan of yours. And she says, well, Marquette, I do all of your mailing. So anytime if someone buys a product that you ship from here, or even that we ship from our factory, like our MDB label backpack briefcase, she says, I do all the mailing. I know who your real fans are. I know who your biggest fans are. I know who your biggest supporters. She's like, I never heard of this guy. She was like, so based on that, I just blocked him because he's a liar. You can't say you're the biggest fan if I have never heard of you and I handle all of Marquette's like email volume and business products. I was like, that's true. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I say that to say people don't love you. They love themselves most of the time. They're not trying to help you. They're trying to help themselves. And the worst part about it is they'll lie to you to benefit themselves. I'm your biggest fan. If she ain't heard of you, you can't be my biggest fan. She knows where everybody lives. Like I could tell her a name of somebody. I'll say so-and-so. She's like, oh yeah, that's one of the saints in Europe. He lives in this city. Tell her another name. Boom. She's like, oh yeah, that guy lives in Chile. He's ordered like 3 things. Takes forever to get there, but he still orders from you. They lie. They're liars. You hear me? Yeah, people will flatter you. People will compliment you. They'll do all kinds of things to try to get in your pockets. It's really sick and sad. It really is. And that is what's on the other side, ladies and saints. That is precisely why when you think, oh, money's going to make me happier, it's guaranteed not to. It's not going to make you unhappy. It will change the nature of your life, but it's not one of those things that has no downside. Even vagina, which I enjoy quite a bit, me personally. I don't know about y'all, but even vagina can have a downside, right? Like you get in there, you're like, ooh, wait, I like this right here. I remember the first time I got a piece. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to do this again. I'm gonna have to try this again. And I remember getting in there, I was like, yeah, this is something I can enjoy. This is a new hobby right here. Yes, indeed. Well, what's the downside of it? You get too much of it, you don't even want no more. You're gonna have to take a break from it. You feel me? It's like eating a fine steak every day. Like you gotta go 2-3 days without it. Then you enjoy it again. That's one. Here's a second one. There could be diseases in there waiting to take you out, right? To take your life. So nothing, like, I don't want to say nothing, but nothing I can think of right now is wholly good. Like it's just 100% upside, no downside. That's the real world. If you think money is going to give you 100% upside, That is not true. It's just not true. And, and I always use the example of cars because I'm often annoyed when I get in one of my cars. I'm like, oh gosh. And these things are so damn high tech. They give you infinite reminders. That's why I like driving my antique Rolls Royce. You dig? But you get in the modern cars, they're like, you need to change the oil. You need to inflate this tire. It's 2 psi low, or you need to do this. You need to do that. One of my cars will tell me like, hey, you're not focused on the road. Stop texting. Yo, what's going on? It can tell where your eyes are looking. It's creepy. But the point is, nothing is all good, okay? Nothing's all good. Welcome to a place called reality, ladies and saints. That's what I'm here to give you is what's real. And that's why I did the Book of Dark Truths, because so many times we get told things that are just not fully the truth. Might be a little bit of the truth, but not the whole thing. May I acknowledge Darren? He writes, sometimes I think when you blow up more, your enemies will use your pride and temper to get you to put yourself in a situation where you catch a case. Correct. So the ism will become a prison ministry. Don't let it ever be so, saint. You know what? What will be, and I live every day like it's my last day. I do precisely what I want to do, and also I make a lot of plans for the future. So I'm building an organization that should be greater than I am. But I'm pretty sharp out here. I've come a long way, and as I remind people, you don't get this far being a goofball. You don't get this far being a goofball. You see, because I'm on the level of certain folks, and you look at them, you're like, I don't know about bro. Yeah, but bro didn't start in the gutter. You see, I started in the gutter. So to hustle your way up out of that to where I am, you gotta be pretty sharp. But I appreciate the reminder. I will heed it. Will absolutely heed it. Reminders are good. It's always good to remember to stay on track, stay focused. Shout out to Brandon supporting the work. Appreciate you. Shout out to Tobo. He writes, thank you, Saint. I recently purchased the Black Box. Can't wait for the Book of Dark Truths. Yes, the Book of Dark Truths will be something different for you, something special. In Conference 3, I talk about real estate. Even Mark Pfeiffer was there. He's talking about commercial real estate investing. But even in terms of how I use real estate, which is often as a checking account or as a savings account, consider this. And I'm gonna break this down. This is a gem. If you want to get all the details, I highly recommend everyone get Conference 3. We talk about real estate investing. We talk about what to do during challenging economies, and it's always a challenging economy, right? But check out Conference 3. You'll benefit greatly. This is what I break down. I actually use a dry erase board, so if you don't understand, get Conference 3. But I'll try to summarize it. When you get a long-term loan, also known as a mortgage, in the real estate industry, you're locked into a given rate, right? So if you get a long-term loan, mortgage loan, and you're paying, say, $1,000 per month, that's locked in. Say if you were renting, well, your rent over a 30-year period might increase, and inevitably, in fact, your rent will increase over a 30-year period. But if you get a mortgage over a 30-year period, your housing costs will remain the same. So that's one benefit. I'm not pushing real estate. Another benefit is if you get a mortgage and it's $1,000 per month, right? And then inflation occurs, you're paying back your mortgage with inflated dollars. So then inflation becomes your friend. You're benefiting from inflation because you were able to get an asset that raises in value, but you're paying a constant price with inflated dollars that are now at a higher amount. So those are the ways that you're able to counter inflation strategically. Secondly, reason I talk about product-based business is because, well, your savings, those are dollars that are sleeping. Every dollar you want to be a soldier on your behalf, always working, really a slave, I should say. And if you want your dollars to be slaves working on your behalf, they need to be active. You need proactive capital. When you put your capital into a business or you use your capital in a product-based business, it's constantly earning. And here's the good news. If there's inflation, you got products, increase the price of the products, which is what happens, right? Thereby, you can maintain profitability and profit margins. So if you use the dollar to put it into a business and that business is returning you 20%. So say you got $1.20 back, and then you increase the price of the product. Well, now you're going to get back $1.40. Maybe it's the same true profitability, but you're getting back more money, thereby protecting yourself from inflation. Conversely, if your dollar is in a savings account or a checking account, you're being eaten away at by inflation. And yes, you might have some like amount that you get returned, and me too, but there are greater ways to get return. And so that's why I like to keep capital active. But at the end of the day, I want you to take the following statement with you, because you'll never have peace of mind in trying to be rich or trying to be a millionaire. The truth is, many millionaires, they become a millionaire, they go broke, become a millionaire, go broke, become a millionaire, become a multimillionaire, whatever the case is. You have to understand that it's a game, and understand that you got to be ready to play in the game, and you got to have a lot of tricks and strategies. But at the end of the day, you need to know that your happiness can't be connected to your 401k. It can't be connected to your savings. True peace, security, this is what women will never understand. This is why you're the leader. There is no security in this world. There's only security in the spiritual world, the inner world, which is why the ism, I always take you deep into inside of who you are. 3 Sins Bible, be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. We talk about be yourself. You got to know who you are. Security comes from the inside, not from the outside. You can't control anything from the outside, right? Like there could be a psychopath like roaming Las Vegas, and they could try to run in here. That I can't control. I do have a clapper that's very close to me, fully loaded with one in the head, and I'm very quick draw McGraw. So yeah, I'm gonna do what I can, but at the end of the day, you can't control the outside. You can't control the inside. So it's really nothing to worry about. Anyways, he writes, how would you invest for growth while avoiding real estate? There's also paper assets, stock market, and my favorite is product-based business. That's what I would invest in. He writes, I started a web design service that I outsourced to Indian professionals. Design, India has the worst design on the planet Earth. And when I say India, I'm talking about design, not development, which is different. Those of you who are a little more technical are very clear on what the difference is. But say India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, that region, they're terrible at design. They're decent at web. They're not very good at mobile. They're terrible at design and copy. Like I know this for sure. So I would not be engaged in a business where I'm outsourcing to India for web design. I might outsource to India for web development, but not for web design. Carrying on. Shout out to Dennis. He writes, I've been thinking about converting to Mormonism, LDS Church. I like the fact that it's uniquely American. In fact, it is. It is a homegrown American religion. That is a fact. He writes that they have great values and beliefs that already align to my own. They do have good values. I must concede. They've modified their religion several times. The Book of Mormon apparently is a living document that gets modified. Initially, it stated that blacks are cursed. Which is ironic because blacks are the original people on earth, right? So it's curious. Whites, Asians, Latinos, all peoples come from blacks. But anyway, I mean, that's just science. Many people are not really caught up on science. Furthermore, they used to also have in their doctrine that not only can you have multiple wives, you should, and those who have more wives are going to get a higher place in heaven. Both of those things were removed from the religion because it was not quite kosher, not acceptable by the mainstream audience or the American legal system. So, those things are kind of sus. He writes, perhaps meet a wife. You'd be very well positioned to meet a wife within that belief system, Mormonism. And you remember, if you've really been following me for a long time, I talk about the 3 M's, you dig? Mormons, Muslims, Mennonites. Very deeply religious persons who practice. You're more likely to meet a proper woman. So those are my thoughts on that. Yeah, wishing you much success. Be careful. And be careful. There's a lot of very successful business people within the LDS as well. So it's not a bad place to be a part of. Shout out to Darius supporting the work as well. Again, he says Marquentino. May I acknowledge Brandon. He writes, vice can cost us, number 1, money, number 2, time, number 3, opportunity. That's correct. Having vices can certainly cost, not can, it will cost us. Shout out to Mr. Israel writes, Shalom and peace to the saints. Can you expound on the importance of being extremely disciplined as a man before getting into any business endeavor? Being disciplined benefits you in business. It benefits you in life and happiness. It makes you more attractive. So, and you will be known by your deeds. For example, when we were in Vietnam, the Vietnamese, when they would see some of us, they say, "Oh, you guys are the boxers. You're the fighters. We see you guys running and boxing all the time." Not because you did it one time, but because you did it many times. You did it consistently. And people who walk around this area of Sasson HQ, they'll often ask, like, "Hey, is that a boxing gym?" Like, no, this is a podcast studio, and this is Sasson HQ. They're like, "Oh, okay," because I always see guys out here working out. You'll be known by your deeds. And discipline, there are many types of discipline. There's a discipline of the body, which also requires discipline of the mind, but there's also the ability to stick to the principles and stick to the wisdom that you know is true and correct. You see, when I mentioned that it's the percentages, obey it. Like, for example, there are people who are professional gamblers. Consider Phil Ivey. He's a poker player, black poker player, very successful, has a Rolls Royce, a nice house in the burbs, very successful gentleman. In fact, I remember when I was in Czech Republic, I had a contact in Vegas that introduced me to a guy who owns a casino in Czech Republic. And, I was talking with this guy who's like the boss of bosses, because listen, if you get the Book of Dark Truths Summit, you get that course. I talk about what real power is. Owning a casino, clearly he has money, but then there's this other thing that's real power, and he has a lot of that too. So a real boss. And I was out there in Czech Republic, and of course, when you're among people from homogenous or more homogenous countries, they tend to look at you through the lens of what they see on the surface. You're a black guy. They want to talk about Tupac. They want to talk about Michael Jordan. They want to talk about whatever black person they know or like. So he starts bringing up Phil Ivey because this guy owns a casino. Phil Ivey's black, and he's a very successful poker player. And he actually has been to this guy's casino. He's hosted him. And so one thing I want to tell you is that Phil Ivey, as a gambler, even though he's gambling, which is a very risky proposition, he does it as a disciplined practice. So there's two things that are worth noting about Phil Ivey. Number one, he does what is called advantage play. He says, I'm not just gambling. I'm not just playing. I'm doing advantage play, which means I'm figuring out where there are breaks in the system, whether it's the actual rules of the game or it's the rules of how the game is played. Like, what kind of cards are they using when they're dealing blackjack or dealing poker? Like, one thing you guys might not be aware of, on the back of playing cards, there's a pattern. There's usually a pattern. He says in the factory, when playing cards are being produced, there's a machine that cuts the cards to separate them. And based on the cut, there's something called edge sorting, where you can look at the pattern on the edge and you could say, oh, well, that's a queen because it has a certain pattern, because he's memorized where the cards are cut for a certain brand of playing cards that are used in the casinos that he frequents. That's higher level-ish right there. You heard me? That's not just going in as a goofball. That's going in as a disciplined man, a disciplined player. There's a number of other things that he does. Another thing that gamblers get caught up with when I say the worst thing you can do is to win, because then you're going to go back. And here's an even worse thing. People will be winning, but they won't leave. They'll start winning, and then they keep gambling. It's terrible. A disciplined person says, look, I've won what I plan to win, or what's within the mathematical margin of winning, and I'm going to leave because now I'm starting to get outside of what is mathematically likely, what is probable. So I'm going to leave. And it takes a lot of discipline to say, yo, I'm up 300%, or I'm up $3,000 or $50,000, whatever you play, and I'm going to leave now, even though I could win more. It's the I could win more that keeps people sitting at that table on that mouse's wheel, on the merry-go-round, instead of getting up and leaving. So that's another kind of discipline. So you have to be able to discipline yourself in that way as well. Discipline is a very far-reaching, complete thing. Shout out to Nigel supporting the work. Writes peace to the saints. I also acknowledge justified misogyny. Love it, love it. Shout out to average Bankai user writes, which recording has the best info on starting a product-based business and getting it up and running as soon as possible? That would be Conference 2 footage. It specifically has a lesson called How to Start a Product-Based Business with Less Than $500. So if you got $500, you can start a product-based business. And the pace of it just depends on you. That's you will define the pace of it. I acknowledge Ethan writes, peace to the saints. I also acknowledge Brandon writes, appreciate the game, Saint. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your support. I also acknowledge Gwinsley, supporting the word Gwinsley, very consistent, always showing love. Okay, dope. All right, Dylan sent the comedy clip. Awesome. I'm going to definitely take a look at that. Much appreciated. And, you know, I'm always interested to do new things. One, because it gives a level of joy. Sometimes it gives a level of stress. I try to avoid that, but it gives a level of joy. And also you have to innovate in whatever space you're in. Now, this stuff is always expensive. Like if I put on a show here, then I'm going to have to get like big speakers and figure out like how the audio video will work. Can we live stream it, invite a bunch of people? Of course, always send the maid staff before and after. So it's expensive, but you know, you got to try new things. Got to try new things. And that's why I appreciate those of you who support the work, because you see the effort that I put in for you. You know, this is unlike anything that the world has ever seen. We are creating a way here, ladies and saints. In this world that is quite Lulu, because we have a significant number of persons doing the wrong thing, we get fooled into thinking it's the right thing or it's good or it's okay. You know, Starbucks is one such example. Any morning you can go into a Starbucks and see a line full of crackheads, is what you're fundamentally seeing, people who are addicted to caffeine. And the great comedy is that caffeine is actually not going to give you a return. And what I mean by that is caffeine or caffeinated persons, these are not the productive people in society. These are not the high energy people in society. These are not the students who study longer hours. I know this for a fact. I remember I was in university at Berkeley. The Chinese kids would be on caffeine, you know, during midterms and finals. And me, my whole life I've been on go. And so I'll be in there grinding, and I'd be grinding harder than everyone else because truth be told, I really wasn't like focused during the semester, because I would pick classes on purpose that have a big midterm and a big final, and that was pretty much your whole grade, because I knew my executive functioning was not very good, which is to say my organizational abilities. And this is very common in males, especially the more male you are, your organizational skills, your attention to detail tends to not be very good, or it develops very slowly or later in life. And so I was aware of my executive functioning was not very good. So I'm not good at paying attention to a bunch of small, irrelevant things. You know, give me the big picture. How do we make the money? I can get that done. So anyways, I take the big midterm, big final course, where basically whatever grades you get on that midterm and final, that's your grade. So when it's time to grind, I'm a grinder. And so I would go in that library, man, you know, from sun up and just going in, reading, writing, whatever I got to do. And then I would see all the Chinese kids around me, and they'd be getting it in. They have their coffee mugs and they're pounding it. And they're going back and forth between the cafe. They're pounding coffee. Then around 3 a.m., I look up, everybody dead. Everybody dead. I'm the only one still going in. Okay, cool. Yep, let's keep it going. Read. Let's go. Yeah, this is fascinating. Huh? This is interesting stuff. I wish I would have studied this the whole semester. I might remember it better. Point is, these are not the productive people. And then what do? They crash. And what's more, they now have an addiction that they have to pay for. We see people doing things and then we join in because we're following the crowd, but the crowd is not always educated. Not the case. And when you ask yourself, if you look at the pyramid of income, income is a pyramid. Income is a pyramid, right? So if income is a pyramid, at the top where you want to be, that's the small part, dummy. The larger part, meaning what most people are doing, that's probably not the right thing to do. So when you're following the crowd, you're usually invariably following them to slavery and destruction, as it turns out. So I want you to be cautious of the things that most people do. I wouldn't follow it. They don't know. Then you consider tattoos. This is comical. I saw on Instagram recently, there was a woman, it was a white woman, and she was talking about how she had applied to a job at, I think it was TGI Fridays, an Applebee's kind of organization, and they didn't follow up with her. So she reached back to them and said, hey, why didn't you follow up with me? You don't think I can do the job? And they say, oh, no, well, we found someone who can do it. And she was like, oh, okay, it's probably because I got piercings and tattoos. Yeah, it is. And you know that, which means that before you got the piercings, before you got the tattoos, you were aware that you would be discriminated against for it. But you're not being wrongly discriminated against, you're being rightly discriminated against. They don't want someone with tattoos and you have tattoos. It's a perfect form of discrimination. Whereas conversely, say someone discriminates against me because I'm black, they're not discriminating because of the color of my skin. They're discriminating because the color of the skin is connected with a behavioral pattern or a culture that might mean I show up late, I clock out early, I'm lazy, I speak in Ebonics. That's what they're really trying to avoid. So if they discriminate against me based on my skin, I'm actually not a person who's late, who's incompetent, who's lazy. So I would be wrongly discriminated against. But if they're discriminating against you based on you having tattoos, they're rightly discriminating against you because it's the aesthetic they don't want, and that's the aesthetic you opted into. You chose it. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with tattoos. In fact, there's not a whole lot wrong with tattoos, except the psychological research, especially for females, indicates when you see a significant number of tattoos, it's an indicator of her being mentally unwell. Yes, there's actually research on that. Now, why do I mention that as something that's going to keep you poor? There's some people, they won't even talk to you based on your appearance, whether it's your skin color, your tattoos, sagging your pants, having a sloppy style of dress. There's one individual that I've seen. I just noticed, I was like, bro, you sloppy as hell. Like, I'm going to keep our interactions super limited. Because what sense does it make that I look like this and you look like that, right? Like, I'm not going to associate with you. Why? Because people who are high level, we do things to appear a certain way, to be regarded and respected in a certain way. So your appearance will cost you. Poor people don't invest enough into this. Now, you'll hear poor people say certain things, and I want you guys to really take this to heart. Somebody put math is white supremacy. I pray that you're just joking. I pray that you're just joking, my boy. Anyways, I want you guys to take this to heart. You see often poor people will say things like, how does a millionaire dress? How's a billionaire dress? Well, billionaires, they wear no-name brand stuff. How many millionaires do you actually know in real life, love? Because I don't think that's entirely true. You see, the multimillionaires that I know, some of them might wear Pro-Keds or no-name stuff, and then you look at their luggage and they spent $3,000 on a piece of luggage. Or you look at their wrist and they have a watch that costs $40,000. So the suggestion that millionaires drive a beat-up old Buick or an old Prius, this does occur, but this is not the majority. Be aware that the majority of people who have a significant amount of money, they're spending it on things they enjoy. I mean, Bill Gates has a mega yacht. A mega yacht. Jeff Bezos has 2 private jets. I don't even know if the word jet is appropriate. Jumbo jets, like commercial size. So yeah, they are spending money, dummy, and they're spending it on the things that they like. And if you want to say, how do millionaires dress? How do billionaires dress? They just wear simple, no-name clothes. Yeah, but what is their wife wearing? Does their wife have a Cartier watch? Is their wife wearing an Hermes bag? Is their wife wearing Chanel glasses? And maybe you think they're wearing no-name brands, but maybe you're too poor to know what the brand is. How about that? How about that part? Or how about the part that you say, oh, Marquette's not wearing any brands? That's true, because it's all custom handmade from scratch. You're technically correct. I'm not wearing any brands. This is all handmade from scratch. So what I'm telling you is that poor people, why do they like to tell the story of, millionaires don't wear brand names? Why do they like to say that? Millionaires don't drive fancy cars. Billionaires don't drive fancy cars. They drive everyday cars. Why do they like to say that? Because as a poor person, you can't afford the brands. You can't afford the cars. So what they're actually doing is trying to make themselves feel better about the things they cannot afford. This is classic stuff. Nietzsche writes about this. The inversion of morals, beyond good and evil. He writes about this. Poor people make up an explanation to make them feel good about their circumstances because the human ego will keep us endlessly in denial. And it goes back to one of the first things I talked about, which is emotions. Your emotions will keep you poor. Your emotions will keep you poor. For example, You listen to hip hop music, rap music, right? It's mostly started by the African American lumpen class, the poor criminal class. So as a result, what do they have to brag about? Well, definitely not money, right? Definitely not money. So what's their source of relevance, their source of power? Well, if you live in a ghetto, you might not have $1 million, but you can catch a couple bodies and everyone will respect, revere, and fear you. So then you can make raps about how much of a tough guy you are. You might not have 900,000, but you can say, I got shot 9 times and survived, become a rapper, and people will revere you because you're scary or tough guy. And so you take something that in actual fact is not anything to brag about. It's nothing to brag about. Like, my hood's so tough, my hood's so dangerous. Like, that's nothing to brag about. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. No, I'm about that life. That's nothing to brag about. You're saying that you're a violent person. The only reason you're violent is because you grew up around people who are imbeciles, and every now and then some of them deserve to go. But if you grew up in an upper class neighborhood, people are happy. They're playing croquet and shit. You heard me? People are, they doing they're pheasant hunting. They're doing all kinds of stuff you don't know about. They're quail hunting, doing all kinds of things you don't know about. Enjoying life. They don't want to fight anyone. They don't want to shoot anyone. They don't want to get shot. So you talk about violence, you make it a value because it's all you have easy access to. So as a poor person, you make violence a value. Whereas as a wealthy person, you would value something that's actually valuable, like money or having a wealthy, successful family with kids that you're proud of. Whereas you're a poor person, you're gonna dress like a slore, and then you're gonna value your body because it's something you can monetize. Come on now. I've exposed all the rappers. I just exposed every female rapper and every male rapper. The male rappers talk about violence because that can give them relevance and power in the world and attention. I'm a gangster. And then I talk about these black slores. They show their body because they got it for free. You don't need money to show your body. You get your body straight off rip. You're born with it. So they can monetize that, or they can get relevance, attention, and a form of power from showing their body. Yeah, I just exposed all of them. And that's what's going on in the ghetto, impoverished thinking. So what I'm explaining to you is that the poor, or the people on the weak side of the dynamic, the losers, there's always a master-slave relationship. The slave is always going to try to assign value to that which they can value. Not to that which is valuable, but to that which they can have as a value. Come on now. Yeah, we dropping it today. We absolutely dropping it. Yeah. Shout out to Victor. He writes, wow, Marquette U is the way to go. More tuition. I appreciate that in a real way. Yeah, I mean, I find it to be utterly comical when people say, like, millionaires don't drive fancy cars. That's just people trying to look rich. Okay, so if you're smart, you follow me on Instagram, right? MarQuett Devon, Marquette Devon, MarQuett Davon. Go to my highlights, click Monaco. I've been to Monaco a ton of times. I stay at the same hotel, which is the most expensive hotel in Monaco. It's the most beautifully located, great views, gorgeous hotel in the European style. Every time you see me walk into the front of that hotel, what's in front of it? Lambo, Lamborghinis, Rolls Royce, Maybach, G-Wagon, every McLaren, every expensive car on earth is there, and there's like 5 of them. You're not a millionaire if you're in Monaco in that hotel, you're a multimillionaire. Full stop. The cars out there, those cars are $1 million a pop, many of them. Don't tell me wealthy people don't drive expensive, nice cars. You just don't have enough money to know, or you're lying. Inversion of morals. You're lying as a poor person because you want to feel good about not having these things. Lie to yourself. Keep lying. Coping. But the reason that I go so hard on that, you might be like, Quet, like, why are you going in so deep on that? I'll tell you why. Shout out to Blake supporting the work. The reason I go so deep on that is because until you get out of that mindset, you're going to continue thinking like a poor person. And if you think like a poor person, you're going to live like a poor person. As long as you're over here saying stupid things like, oh, I don't want a Lamborghini. Bro, what? Listen, who doesn't want a Lamborghini? Let's tell the truth here. Now, I might say I wouldn't pay $1 million for a Bugatti, which is true. I wouldn't. But would I accept one? Hell yeah. Is it a dope car? For sure. Absolutely. Like, let's not lie to ourselves. That's the problem. You got people lying. And as long as you lie to yourself, you're going to suffer. Because here's the thing. When you lie and say, oh, I don't want this, I don't want to achieve that, I don't need to make $1 million, and you don't need to, you want to. That's the thing. But as long as you lie about it, you're not going to put in the extra work because you don't believe you can get it. You don't believe in yourself. So when you tell the truth, you're going to say, you know what? I can turn things around. I can become something better. And when I become something better, I can get my hands on something better. You can get there if you choose to. But most of the time, people comfortable as hell. You heard me? People be in poverty so damn comfortable, you dig? It don't look good on me, man. I likes velvet. I likes the velvet. And velvet is expensive, especially when it's custom made. You dig? Yes, indeed, little buddy. Yeah, get your emotions together and get your head together.
So this is Corey Dollarhide. I would say the internal self is better. I mean, self-explanatory. You got to take yourself wherever you go. I think that when you're talking about the internal state of who you are, your deep core beliefs, how you behave, your demeanor, your decorum, it's more vital indeed. Hey, so I would say
Yeah.
the difference or the
What's your first name when you speak up, as the other saints might not know you? Okay, thank you. What's good about the internal versus the external?
we good?
Yeah.
The difference or the goodness between them?
What's better?
So this is Corey Dollarhide. I would say the internal self is better. I mean, self-explanatory. You got to take yourself wherever you go. I think that when you're talking about the internal state of who you are, your deep core beliefs, how you behave, your demeanor, your decorum, it's more vital indeed.
Yeah, the internal is critical because when we're talking about your goals, right? And if the gentleman said, my goal is I want a Ferrari, I want the fastest, or better yet, you know, he'd been on the internet and somebody said to him, what color is your Bugatti? What color is your Bugatti? And then he got it in his mind that he wants a Bugatti. I want Bugatti. My Bugatti is red, right? And he's like, okay, so if you could go ahead and remind me of what your original question was. And can you guys confirm that you can actually hear me right now? Confirm that you can hear me right now. I forget the original question. He just sent the timestamp without the original question, but I'm gonna just go ahead and speak on this and we're gonna carry on. When we're talking about the external and the internal, the external and the internal in this case, we're talking about the fact that the outside world will tell you certain things, like what color is your Bugatti? So you hear that enough times, and you start thinking, oh, well, that's the standard of success. I need a Bugatti. But that might not be what you really want. That might not be what is true to you. Huh? Now, here's what I mean. I knew that I had a couple things on my checklist. Like when I could accumulate some capital, there's certain things that to me were the ultimate. Like, for example, I remember when I went down to Miami, maybe the second time, and I was talking with Walter, and we're talking about cars, and I was like, yeah, I got this antique, and I'm trying to buy this other antique. And he was like, you don't like new cars? I was like, no, not really. Not really. They're too bossy. It's like dealing with a broad. You hear me? Like the car telling you, like, you know, in 3,000 miles, you need a new oil change. Car giving you all these reminders you ain't asked for. I was like, nah, I like an antique, you know, beautiful on the outside, made of real steel. It's all chrome shining. I like it's a real strong car. You know, I like the way they drive. I like a classic antique car. That's what I actually like. That's not what I was told to like. You see, what we're dealing with most of the time as human beings, we're dealing with what we were told to like, what we were told to do. You were told to go to college. You were told to get married. You were told to do a lot of things that might not be the right thing for you or sometimes for anyone. That's why we have the Book of Dark Truths, for example. And it all returns you back to the internal, which is to be able to have that conversation with yourself and say, Marquette, well, what kind of car do you really like? It doesn't matter if no one else on earth likes the car except you, but what do you really like? Well, I like antique cars. You heard me? I like antique cars. Yeah. 1950. I like that. 1950. That range, that's what I like. Okay, cool. Now you know how to satisfy yourself. But here's another thing. Here's how you win the ball game in life. You win the ball game to happiness, because here's the difference. So say Walter, he likes new cars. Every year, so say he buys a new Bugatti 2024, right? Or he buys a new Aston Martin 2024. It's the latest car. People are like, dang, that car is gold. Then next year in 2025, somebody else pulls up next to him. They got the 2025 one. Now what does Walter need to do? He needs to get a new car. Or like his car's 2 years old. Now his car's like the old thing, the passé thing. He got to keep on changing cars, because the car actually had no inherent value except that everyone else, marketing, mass psychology, said that it was a great car. But now that the years are passing, it's not a great car, it's an old car. Huh? Like the new iPhone comes out, now you want it just because everybody else wants it. That's not really what you want. You don't understand yourself, the internal. Now, with regards to Marquette, he buys antique cars. So say he gets a car that's 1950, antique Rolls Royce, 1950. Then the year's 2024. Then the year's 2025. What happens to Marquette's antique car? It becomes more valuable. It becomes even more impressive, even more valuable as time moves on. And here's the more important thing. I like the car because I like it. The year changing doesn't matter, but somebody who wanted the 2024 Aston Martin, as soon as it's 2025, you're going to want the 2025. As soon as it's 2026, you want the 2026. And that's a good indication to you that you don't really like the 2024 Aston Martin. You don't really like it. You don't really know what you like. Because how is it that because the year changed, now the car you like less? Come on now. Come on now. We teaching out here. Yes, that's right. I said you don't even know what you like. Shout out to Nick. He writes, "Peace of the Saints." Message in email. Okay, let's see what you got here. He writes, "How would you treat a side piece that is serving well and thinks she's a main piece?" Well, that's the best. Nick, you've been to the Book of Dark Truth Summit. I know it's pivotal to acknowledge the truth and keep her in her lane. Acknowledge the truth to whom? To her or to yourself? He writes, "Also, Sasson workouts should be deep this weekend. Looking forward to fellowshipping and getting that prayer in, Sasson or nothing, in a real way. This Saturday." Okay, good. I got my cleaning staff actually coming in Sunday, so that's perfect. That all works out beautifully. And thank you for getting everyone together. It's always a pleasure to get the men together. Pause. No diddy. Shout out to Bryant supporting the work. He was at the Book of Dark Truth Summit. And, it was just such an awesome time to be able to spend time with honorable men, just the simple things, man, like sitting down with the brother at In-N-Out. And he's from the East Coast too. So that just adds another layer to it, just sitting down at In-N-Out, just doing simple stuff, having good conversation. So often as men, we don't take our time just to relate to each other in, just a calm, relaxed environment, especially business guys. We're always working and planning, and it was just good to chill, get to know somebody. Carrying on, back to this work. So I would argue that poor people live like wealthy people, and that's why they stay poor. Paradox again. Poor people in America, and probably the West in general, poor people, and probably actually not just the West, around the world. I've seen the world, around the world. Poor people live like wealthy people, and that's why they stay poor. I'm going to say that one more time, goddammit, because it was good. It was good. Poor people live like wealthy people, and that's why they stay poor. Marquette, what kind of sense does that make? How can a poor person live like a wealthy person? Okay, I'll give you an example. I know a number of chicks. They might all think I'm talking about them right now, which I am. But also, ladies, if I'm talking about one lady and you can't tell if I'm talking about you, that lets you know that you're not unique at all. You don't know who you are. Anyways, so I got one young lady. She has a dog. And say I said, hey, I want you to come out to Vegas or let's go to the Maldives. Either way, what does she have to do? She has to find a dog sitter, which means she has to pay a doggy daycare, a doggy hotel for a week or for 2 weeks. And that's not cheap. Okay. So you have a dog, which is an expense to you. And when you go on vacation, your vacation is 30% more expensive because you're paying rent at your house, but now you're staying in a hotel. So now you're paying for the hotel, right? You pay for your flight, then you pay for whatever you do while you're in this vacation destination. You're also paying for your dog just to be kept by someone, right? Okay. You see, that's rich people stuff right there. You're not rich. Why do you have a dog? No, I'm really curious. And you got a dog, and so that means you need to pay for when you're not on vacation, you have to house the dog, which is fine. You're living in filth, by the way. You're not clean if you have a dog. Just side note, it's all good. No disrespect, but actually, yeah, disrespect. You're filthy. So you have a dog, so you're living in filth, and then you have to pay for the dog's food. So you have to buy dog food. God forbid you actually want the dog to eat healthy instead of those little kibbles and bits. But you're feeding the dog. So that's an expense. Then you buy doggy toys and you got the doggy pallet and blanket. And also you have to walk the dog on a regular basis. You guys never walk the dog enough. You don't give a canine the actual exercise that a canine requires, but that's neither here nor there. So you have to go walk the dog or let the dog go use a restroom, which is opportunity cost because now you're using your own time to do this. You're doing something where you could have done something else. Maybe you could have slept in, got better sleep. Maybe you could be working, infinite number of things. Got you. So all these investments you're making into a dog, which is a luxury item. Yeah, I know. I realize it's a living being, but it's a luxury item, which is to say it's something that you don't actually need. It's something that really only the wealthy should have. And not even the wealthy should have it because it's really a psychological device to keep your lonely ass from bouncing off of the walls. But the point is, you have poor people, even homeless people I've seen with dogs. You have poor people living like wealthy people. To have a dog, this is something that a wealthy person should do. Oh, and by the way, shout out to the people who walk around and walk their dog and they actually clean up after them. Most of you don't because you're dirty people. That's why you have a dog. But, shout out to the people who bring a plastic bag, reach down and pick up a handful of warm, hot dog shit. Shout out to those people who put a warm hot bag of dog feces in their hand. I appreciate you guys for keeping the place a little cleaner. But yeah, all that's opportunity cost, that's time cost, that's financial cost. And then here's the worst part. You're also blocking yourself off from certain things. Like these young ladies who have dogs, I'd never move in with them and I'd never let them move in with me. And more importantly, I'd never have a kid with them because I'm not going to raise my kid around a dog. It's an animal. So there's a variety of reasons. Cleanliness is one of them. That I wouldn't raise my child around the dog. So there's a lot of costs there. You're a poor person doing the things of a wealthy person. And because you're staying poor. Whereas if a wealthy person was to have a dog and they're going to go fly around the world and spend a month out, they can pay for a doggy hotel for a month. They can do that and it's no sweat. It's not a strain. Now, as a poor person, there may be things you want to go do, but you're like, oh, I don't want to put my dog in a doggy daycare. Now you're missing even more opportunities. You're missing out on the person you would have met, the conference you could have went to, the vacation. You probably would have been able to afford more if A, you didn't have to pay doggy daycare, and B, all the expenses you spent on maintaining the dog, feeding the dog, housing the dog, you could have added to your vacation. You're living like a wealthy person, but you're not a wealthy person. And it goes on indefinitely. Anything that you do that is not a necessity means that you're a poor person living like a wealthy person. Smoking cigarettes, you're a poor person living like a wealthy person. Dog, you're a poor person living like a wealthy person. Tattoos, you're a poor person living like a wealthy person. Tattoos, they cost money. And not only do they cost money, they cost opportunity. Like, for example, I got a lot of friends who have tattoos, but they're entrepreneurs. If you're not an entrepreneur and you're covered in tattoos, you probably are costing yourself and you're limiting your prospects. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, fantastic, bro. Like, go yay. But you guys are not realizing that you're locking yourself into a certain level of existence and you're causing yourself to struggle unduly. I saw an Instagram video, and I really want to highlight this for you guys. This dumb white girl It's always the dumb white girls that are complaining. It's amazing. They're the most privileged person on earth, yet they always find it in their heart to complain to you and I. So there's a silly white chick, and she's over here saying, you know, like all of you guys in the baby boomer generation, you call us lazy. And you know, you don't realize that during your lifetime, you could work a 9-to-5 and buy a house. During your lifetime, you could work a 9-to-5 and be comfortable. During my lifetime, that's not possible. Also, what you forgot to mention, dumb girl, is the following. They didn't use dogs as psychological devices at the level that you guys do. They did not have all of the instant, you know, these technologies that are based around instantaneous satisfaction or completion of the task. You know, they had to go to the library to print out something. They had to use a fax machine and hope something was received. They had to use a washboard to clean clothes. They had to actually wash the dishes. They didn't have a magic box to put it inside of. There's so many inconveniences that they had to experience that were just a part of life. Given the amount of time that has been returned to you through technology, you have a washing machine, a dryer, you have a dishwasher, you have garbage disposal, you have no need for printing because everything is digital. You have instantaneous communication. Back then, making a phone call was a big thing, right? You can communicate, do a video call remotely. You don't even have to show up to half the places. So you've been returned so much of your time, dummy, that to compare yourself to them and act like you're getting the short end of the stick, it only shows how much of an imbecile you are. It really does. So the point is, well, they didn't have dogs. They had a higher savings rate as well. And that's not only because of the dollar was better value, that's because of their actual habits. They didn't have access to credit on the scale that you have access to credit. There's so many differences, mostly advantages that you have, but you've become Lulu up here and you're not using the time you regained. Here's why. What did your parents or your grandparents' generation do when they had free time? Useful things, or they engage with family, which would remove them from vice. What do you do when you have free time? Buy a bottle in the club. Go on Instagram. You guys spend 20% of your life scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, so you're not accounting for the expenses that you incur by your own foolishness. And you being a poor person living like a wealthy person. Wealthy people are known as the leisure class. Leisure. You have wealth of time and wealth of capital, which means that you can do what you want to do. Why is it that poor people are living a leisurely experience? If you're poor, you don't have time to play video games. If you're poor, you don't have time to scroll on social media. You do have time, but you shouldn't use it for that. That's the problem. You're living a leisure class lifestyle when you're not a part of the leisure class. That's the point. That's how, true to the title of this video, your behavior and thinking is keeping you poor. Now, if you're a wealthy person, play a video game. I still think it's stupid, but you go ahead, play a video game. It's not smart, but yeah, go ahead. You got time. But if you're a 9-to-5er, why are you playing video games? And let me be clear with you. I never played video games growing up. I grew up around a lot of poor black guys. All of them play video games. So if you got time to play video games, you surely got time to get another job. You surely got time to start a business. You got time to do everything. You just will not use the time. Come on now, you won't use the time. So anyone in this generation complaining, you should be complaining to yourself. Because you're a poor person living like a rich person. And another thing, ordering Uber Eats. You cannot afford to order Uber Eats unless you make at least 6 figures. That is a luxury. You're paying a markup on the. Let me break that down real quick. Let me help you live in your income level. You'll be happier that way. You won't be stressed. Is it cheaper to shop at a grocery store or to buy restaurant prepared food? Grocery store. Much cheaper. And you know what? I don't do my own grocery shopping. I recently did my own grocery shopping. I talked about it on a live recently. I didn't go into the store, but I'd used the Amazon delivery. And even that, which is still a markup. I was like, dang, $100? This is a lot of stuff. Like, this is really cool. Because usually when I go out and have a meal, it's like $150 just for me, right? So I was like, well, I got a whole refrigerator of food for $100. Because groceries are cheaper than a restaurant. Every time. I don't even care if the restaurant is McDonald's. That's number one. Then when you move from the restaurant to Uber Eats, The food is marked up in price. Then you add a delivery fee from Uber, and then they prompt you to give a tip before you even saw the service. Before you figure out if they're going to deliver your food on time, Uber has thrown in a tip recommendation. And here's the crazy thing. The recommendation starts at 15%, goes up to like 25%. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Because the funny thing is the tip basic used to be 15%. How in the hell we tipping 20, 25%? It doesn't even make any sense. Silliness. But you do it and you pay for it. So you're paying for the level of luxury and amenity that is really suitable for a wealthy person. And because you're living on credit card debt, borrowed money, you don't realize how much you're hurting yourself. If there was no credit, you'd realize when you get to zero, you're like, oh, I can't eat anymore. I don't have any money to eat. But the problem is you can go past zero in a credit-based society. You go past zero. You get a credit card, spend the money. Keep going. You can go past zero. That's a tragedy. And here's why I know a lot of people are going to die poor. I see them in the comments saying silly things. I'm like, okay, this person is deeply impoverished, mentally mostly. They say things like, well, if you're a multimillionaire, like, why do you expect people to send in super chats? Because my time and my knowledge is highly valuable. And in this conversation right now, who's benefiting more, me or you? You, for sure. So I expect my time to be compensated, even if I'm doing this out of goodwill and altruism. I always expect my time to be compensated. Why? Because I'm a highly paid professional. I'm best in class at public speaking. I'm a person who gets invited to business conferences to teach. So I always expect my skilled labor to be compensated. You, on the other hand, you're a moron with a bunch of time, so your time wouldn't be compensated. That's why you're like, yeah, I'll go live for free. Of course you will. Of course, because you don't have any skill worth paying for. So only a dummy who's broke would think of something like that. A wealthy person is going to say, of course I expect you to pay for my time. It's a slap in the face for you to not pay for my time. And just as Jim Rohn said, he says, I don't need the money, but I take it. Absolutely. I don't need it, but I take it. But let me teach you something, Saints. Go get the money. And one thing I was raised on since I was a child, if it's a penny, I want it. If I kid you not, I told you guys many times. I remember like it was yesterday. I was in Los Angeles. I remember at the time I was I think I was like 25, drop top BMW Z4. And I'm walking behind a homeless woman, and it looked like she was counting up some change, and she dropped some change. I was like, hey, you dropped some change. And she's like, I bent down and picked it all up. I'm still like that to this day. Like right up there, I got a little sack that I keep my coins in. At my house, I got a sack that I keep my coins in. I want every penny because I can add up pennies into dollars. I absolutely can add pennies into dollars. I want every penny that is owed to me. I will not work for free because slavery is over. If you have skills, you should be compensated. If you're a business person, you need to think like a business person. Only a broke person would say something like that. But why are they saying it? I want you to really understand the mind of a impoverished person so you don't think like that. Poor people are lying most of the time. That's why they're suffering in life. They're in a low station because they're liars. They lie to themselves. They lie about the world outside. When somebody comes on and they say like, oh, well, if he's a multimillionaire, why does he expect you to support the work? They're not saying that because they believe in what they're saying that. They're saying that because they don't have money and they don't want to feel obligated to send anything. They want to freeload because they want to freeload because they don't have money because they stupidly spent their money on hot Cheetos and cup of noodles. That's why they're saying that. Notice people who have money, they show up baller alert, baller alert, baller alert. It's not an issue. They don't have to think twice about money. That's the challenge of being poor. When you're poor, you can't think about much else other than money. This is deep. That's a gem. Remember that. When you're poor, you can't think about much else other than money. The best thing about having money is not having to think about money or worry about money. You can think about other things. That's why I can give you all this game because I got time to write it down. I got time to ponder. I got time to be at peace. I'm in a power position. Broad starts yapping. I'm like, hey, be silent. I want to think. Just sit there. Just be pretty. Just sit there. I want to think. I don't want to hear nothing. I'm in a power position. I can do that. But when you're not in a power position, what you got to do? Oh, I got to hurry up and get to work at CVS. Yeah. And then you work CVS and you go do your side hustle. You do your gig at night and you're working constantly. You don't have time to reflect, ponder, or none of that. And that's why you end up saying and thinking stupid things that will keep you in that same position. Come on now. Come on now. We getting after it. Shout out to Mr. Alam supporting the work. May I also acknowledge Yakin writes wisdom in a real way. You ain't never lie. Shout out to Vilkin. He writes, keep going, same question in the email. Sir, yes, sir. Here is the question. He writes, let me add something I noticed a whole lot about poor people. They complain about money and their job, but make no effort to change it. They're not action oriented. 100% correct. They're not action oriented. He writes, real question, Marquette. I really want to make 10K per month, make that consistently and stay at the top. What are 1 to 3 traits that would take me to 2K per month from a job to 10K per month, from worker to self-employed? Very good. You know what? I wouldn't think about traits. I would think about deliverables, outcomes. Like, what do I need to do? So traits are the means, but you need an outcome. I'd be asking myself, okay, well, what is the outcome I need? And then you start developing the traits to get to that particular outcome. Okay, the outcome is 10K, or shall we say 2K, from being self-employed. Then the question is, okay, if I'm self-employed, how do I engage self-employment? Because I'm currently on the employee side. Well, you got to sell something, a product or service. Okay, if I'm going to go on the product side, what's a low-cost product I can start selling to get into the game, to start building the knowledge? So your true question is not, how do I make 10K? It's not even, how do I make 2K? It's, what product do I want to start with? And you don't even need to be good at it or successful. You have to start and start practicing, because eventually you'll win. Or you might find there's other ways to be self-employed that maybe are not product-based business, or maybe I'm self-employed, or maybe I'm just working in a company that I co-founded with someone else. I'm not doing it alone. There's so many different ways to skin the cat on the self-employed side or the sole proprietor side. So what your true question is for yourself right now is not, how do I make 10K? Not, how do I make 2K? How do I pick a product and then get started on that product? That's where you're really at. You see, because 10K doesn't have meaning. 2K doesn't have meaning, because it's like, how are you going to get the money? You need the product. Figure out the product. Because here's the thing. Even if you're selling lip balm and things are getting expensive, right? I don't even remember what this costs, but let's say it's like $6, right? So once you get the product, this is why I'm telling you something genius. Well, once you get the product, now you know, if I want to make $2,000 per month and this is $10, well, I need to sell 200 of these. Voila, I know the path. Now I can start making progress. So think outcome, think product, think tangible. Don't think trait. How do you touch a trait? Can you touch a trait? You can touch this. This costs $10. You just need to sell 200 of these. There you go. Thank you for that question, by the way. I trust that many have benefited from it. Shout out to Sullivan supporting the work. May I also acknowledge Travis. He writes questions sent via email. Go ahead, take a look at that. He writes, I do lighting for concert and corporate events, and I make good money while enjoying my work. That's the sweet spot right there. He writes, I was able to get full custody of my little boy, and he's 8. Had him for 1 year. Congratulations. May we all congratulate him. Family is very important to us. He writes, I'm in good shape, and I thought all of these things would make me what women want, but I still struggle. How do I get a woman instead of a 304 looking for money and looks? Bruh, we need so much more information to answer this. Number one, it sounds like you're happy, and that's a good start. Firstly, you didn't tell me where you're fishing at, right? You know, if you cast your line in certain places in muddy water, you know, you're going to end up pulling debris out of there. So we mentioned earlier the M's, Mormons, Muslims, Mennonites. That's a ready-made community of women that have a certain value set. So boom, there's one. Secondly, I like women who are well off. Auctions, galas, galleries, you know, more higher level things, conventions, professionals, college campuses. So it's like, where are you fishing at? And then number 3, you have to understand, similar to business, sales and business, it's a volume game, which is to say you got to do some numbers, get your 3 a day in. Wishing you much success. And yes, here's the truth. It's not going to be easy. You have a child. You know that this is not easy. Shout out to Frank. He writes, Saint, since you don't drink, when you bring home a girl who had been drinking that evening, do you kiss her? Well, generally, I don't like kissing anyone. Um, I prefer to avoid kissing altogether if I can manage it, because you don't know where these chicks' mouth has been. They don't have any decency. But yeah, if you want to, yeah, go ahead. He writes, weird question that's been on my mind lately. It depends on how slizzer she is, but there's levels to things, right? So if it's a girl that you've been dating and she's slizzard, yeah, go ahead and enjoy yourself. If it's a girl that you just met out in the world, you might ask yourself, well, how slizzard is she? There's levels to things. I think you have a sense of what's right and wrong. But at the end of the day, generally speaking, if you're an upright man and you're dealing with women, in this case, slores that are, and there's levels to being a slore, you know, uh, depends on, at the peak level of being a slore, winning the gold in the whole Olympics, their whole philosophy, they ain't tripping, Brody. You're not gonna, even though we see a lot of this hashtag Me Too stuff out in the world, these are happening to wealthy guys. This is happening to celebrities, and also you have to realize these guys are dealing with a volume of women. If you, for example, are in a volume of boxing matches, a lot of boxing matches, you're more likely to get hurt. You're dealing with a lot of women, you're more likely to get hurt. So that's something to be aware of. But if you ever feel like the girl is questionably slizzard, then I would not kiss her. I would not do anything with her. Because the truth of the matter is that you're at risk. So always ask yourself, if I'm a valuable man, is this worth me? If I'm a valuable man, is this worth me? Often the answer is nah. I mean, I had a chick, she's like, hey, Marquette, why do you communicate with me with disappearing messages? I said, actually, I communicate with everyone with disappearing messages. Everyone I talk to, we use disappearing messages. She says, why? She was like, I really like to be able to go back to the messages and cherish it. And like, I like having a record of things we said or jokes you told. And I was like, well, you ain't gonna have that. She's like, yeah, but it's special to me. And she starts complaining. I'm like, listen, I'm not down for the complaints. You're causing problems right now, by the way. And more importantly, I'm too valuable for you to like have an endless record of our conversation so you could pull this up 2 years later in a lawsuit. I'm too valuable for that. I don't care about your emotions with regards to this text message conversation. I don't even like texting you, okay? I don't like texting anybody. I don't like that. So either you're going to get down with the program, you could get right or get left. It doesn't matter to me. But one thing I want you to know and be clear on, I'm too valuable to give you this treasure trove of evidence so you can trump up a case. I'm too valuable to put myself at risk. Okay. And I will not sacrifice myself so you can have a collection of text messages to reference when you feel lonely or down. Okay. I don't care. I do not care at all. At all. You feel me? I'm too valuable. And gentlemen, you really got to feel like that. If you don't feel like that, that's a problem. May I acknowledge via PayPal, shout out to Mr. Shaw supporting the work. Appreciate you. Now, also acknowledge Caleb came in with the tuition. Shout out to Robert. He writes, your valuable time and this invaluable lecture. I appreciate that. Shout out to the real ones. And one thing I want you guys to know is honorable people, like the guy who has a store next to mine, he had mentioned that he has a car cleaning business. Now, here's the thing. Truth be told, I did not need my car cleaned at all. At all. First thing I was like, bro, like, I'll pull up one of my cars. Go ahead and clean it up for me. No problem. And I bought the most expensive one. Show love. Show love to those who show love to you. Now, granted, you're not showing me any love, but, invest in the relationship, build the relationship. You're a business person dealing with other people you respect. There's nothing wrong with exchanging value, exchanging favor, exchanging capital. That's in a community. That's what a community is about. The problem is that you guys never grew up in a community. You don't know what it's about. Like, for example, you buy your shoes from Nike. Has Nike ever done anything for you? Nope. Will Nike ever do anything for you? Never. But back in the day, in your neighborhood, there used to be something called a cobbler. And the cobbler was the father of a kid you go to school with. The cobbler is a guy who lives in your neighborhood. You need a pair of shoes. You go over to the cobbler down the street and he hook you up. You guys don't understand what a community is. So you spend your money with strangers who don't love you and don't respect you and will never give anything back. Shout out to Travis supporting the work. He writes, had him since he was one. Thank you for the wisdom. Indeed. Oh, had him since he was one. Gotcha. Okay, Shaw, that's even better. That's even better. May I acknowledge the folks supporting the work via Super Chat? Shout out to Nigel. Might have said that one twice, but it's all good. I am thankful. Shout out to Justin. Okay, I definitely. Did I read this one? Would you rather make 50K working for yourself remotely anywhere in the world on your business, or make 100K working for a company? I'll take the 50. Shout out to Iraj. Which recording has the best info on starting a product-based business? Okay, conference 2. Okay, so I did go through these. He writes, thoughts on going to the saint city of China, Macau. You know what? I'm actually quite interested in stopping in. I haven't been. I met the most gorgeous Taiwanese girl that was speaking very highly of it. So I'm very interested to check it out. So definitely let me know if you end up pulling up over there. Last time we were out in the world, man, I messed around and was victim of Dr. Fauci. But this time, you heard me. I'm ready to rock. Let me know if you end up over there because I'm about to start moving and shaking. The dude 343 writes, peace to the saints. How many conference footages are there, bro? I feel you. And what are the topics for each one, bro? I don't have it memorized like that. He writes, also, I'm in merchant service, but I'm going to see if I can pull it up for you. I'm in merchant services doing great. Which conference footage do you recommend buying first for investing to grow passive income? There are many types of passive income, number one. Number two, when you say I'm in merchant services, it's good to elaborate on some things. You know, for example, there's a middle-aged white guy who had came into the studio, and Giovanni was here, one of the saints from New York, and he came into the studio. I'm back at the office working, and he comes in like asking a bunch of questions, and Giovanni is looking at me like, bro, like, should I get Brody out of here? And you know me, I'm always open to the possibility. Not always, but I'm in this moment, I was open to the possibility that the gentleman might have an offer. He might have something meaningful, some value add. And so he's like, oh, what do you do here? And mind you, it's like 90% of the people who come in and ask that question, they already know what I do, but it's fine. So I said, we run a podcast out of here, The Saint in the Center on YouTube. Then he's like, oh, well, have you heard of so-and-so? Have you heard of so-and-so? And I was like, no, I haven't, which is a fact. I don't keep up with YouTubers. Oh, have you heard of so-and-so? I was like, no. And in my head, I'm just like, all right, you're already trying to sell something, but you're giving me a quiz that's irrelevant and silly, which lets me know your sales skills are atrocious and you're not good at what you do. Because I'm willing to buy. I have capital. I'm willing to buy. It's just that you haven't even stated what you sell, what the value is for me, what the price is. You're just quizzing me on something that you're falling flat on. Anyways, I say that to say I stopped him right there because I could tell he wanted to sell something, and maybe I want to buy something. I was like, listen, what are you selling? He said, oh, I'm not selling anything. I was like, okay, well, where are we going with this line of questioning? What's the outcome for you? He says, oh, I was just curious as to this and that. I was like, okay, well, don't be curious then. Curiosity, nah, it's no good. Be purposeful. I was like, what do you do? And he says, oh, well, I work in such and such. I think he said marketing. I was like, oh, okay. Well, tell me more. What do you do in marketing? I was like, oh, in marketing, I'm kind of like the ad guy. Okay, well, what do you do with ads? Oh, well, I do the ads for like online, like online this and that. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do? Like, and I'm trying to drill down to figure out, well, is there a value you can offer me? If not, man, bro, get up out of here, bro. Like, I don't want you walking in here. Like, it's be cool. Some bad females walking here, but you don't just show up in here for no reason. Like, come in here to offer some value. Point is, when you say merchant services, I don't know if you work for yourself or maybe you work for a business, who knows, but it is not clear enough. It's just like if you meet someone and I say, oh, well, what do you do? They're like, oh, I'm a consultant. What do you consult on, bro? Like, do you consult on how to start a business? Do you consult on how to get your OF cracking? Do you consult on how to get a second citizenship, how to get a passport in a foreign country? What do you consult on? Like, you must be terrible at your job. You must have no specialty. You're not competent. You're not making money. The true mark of intelligence and competence is being succinct. That's why every time I want run a business, I can put it down in one sentence or in one metaphor. What do? We monetize your inbox. What do? We do effortless attendance. Boom, simple, quick, clear. People who can't do that, I'm suspicious of them. I'm not talking about you. I'm not saying you're an entrepreneur trying to sell something, but I just want everyone to know that in terms of like making your money, like you need to be sharp with that. Back to the hustlers. So this one, $34.99. How to invest in real estate property. Someone earlier had asked about this. This is actually the one that you need. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat for you. This is the exact one that you need. There you go. Boom. So the gentleman earlier had asked me specifically about investing in real estate. That's the one you need. It says how to invest in rental property and commercial real estate, loans, hugely important, financing and refinancing, renovation. This is for the people we're talking about. A guy earlier specifically asked, well, what about fix and flip? Well, if you're going to fix, that means renovations. Talks about profits. This is hugely important in real estate because real estate is one of those games to where if you do not go through the numbers with a fine-tooth comb, you could think you're in position to make money and end up losing money. There's taxes, there's renovation costs, there's independent contractors, there's certain ways you have to pay them out. There's so many opportunities for you to screw yourself over. You definitely are going to want to take this $34, study it, and then if I were you, I'd probably, if I see a the kind of guy I am, if I see a property I want to buy, say the property's $80,000, $250,000, $2 million, whatever it is, I ask myself, okay, if the property is only 500, or excuse me, if the property's 50,000, 100,000, $250,000, $2 million, would it be worth me to spend $350 to talk to Mark Pfeiffer? Definitely, because my $300 or $350 expense is going to justify my investment. Because Mark Pfeiffer is going to be able to look at the deal and say, oh, this is a red flag. Don't do the deal. It's a bad deal. You're going to lose $50,000 on this. Or Mark Pfeiffer will be like, oh, this deal looks really good. You should absolutely do the deal. If you don't do it, give it to me. That's a value. I'm not even talking about myself. I'm not the real estate guy. That's Mark Pfeiffer. So next time I buy a piece of real estate, I'm going to tap in with Mark. Now, he's a personal friend of mine. I don't have to pay a consultation fee. Why? Because at some point he's going to call me up and ask me something that anyone else would need to pay a consultation fee. We're friends, we're peers. That's the value of having smart, accomplished, wealthy friends, right? So I'm for sure going to call him up. Hey, Mark, bro, I'm looking at us. Now, right now, truth be told, I'm looking at spots in Egypt, South Africa, and Oman. So I'm like, Mark, bro, what do you know about international real estate? Okay, cool. These are the numbers I'm looking at. How do I find out if this is going to turn me a profit if I were to sell it? And how do I know if I should be buying this brand new build or if I should buy something that's a couple of years older? Like, what are we looking at here? Yeah, I'm going to have that conversation because he knows real estate. I know software. I'm not so arrogant as to think that I am a genius in all things. No one is. Carrying on. So what I'm telling you, though, is talk to people who know. Oh, and then here's the last part. He has management companies. If you really want passive income, and I think the emphasis on passive is you ain't got to do too much, you're probably going to want a management company. And again, this factors into your expenses. And because people who are new to real estate don't factor in their expenses with appropriate, line by line, they end up, losing money or having to work their tail off. I know one young lady, I don't even really understand her life because she has so many things she's doing, but it seems like she's operating as her own management company. And I often wonder, why? Why do you do that? It seems like a lot of work. Don't people get into real estate to not have to work so much? That's what I thought. I don't know. I own some real estate, but I don't own it for the purpose of renting it out. People have even said to me, Marquette, why don't you rent out your cars on Turo? You can make a bunch of money. Because I don't want some dumb bimbo standing in my convertible in her high heels, punching holes into my seat. I don't want some goofball trying to film a rap music video in my Maybach. You heard me? I don't want some psychopath driving or some dumb dad rents my my Mercedes, my Rolls Royce to let his kids drive to prom. You got goofball high school kids drinking alcohol in my Rolls Royce. I don't want that. Heck no. And frankly, here's another thing on poor people thinking. Well, what do poor people say? Oh, well, you know what? You can have your Lamborghini pay for itself. Rent it out on Turo. I was watching Bandman Kevo. He told me how to rent it out on Turo. First off, you're not Bandman Kevo, number one. And I've met Bandman Kevo. I'd rather just talk to him than talk to you, number one. Number two, if you need to rent out your Lambo to pay for it, you probably shouldn't have a Lambo. You probably can't afford a Lambo. When I'm driving one car, my other cars, they just sit and collect dust like it's their hobby. Hear me? Yeah, some people are the stamp collectors, Pokemon collectors. The hobby of my cars is collecting dust, okay? That's what they do. When I'm traveling, my cars collect dust. When I'm out in the world, my properties, they collect dust. And I like it that way. I don't want people in my home, in my bed. I don't want strangers in my cars kicking their feet up. I don't want them using my silver champagne flutes. I don't want them using my massage seats in my cars. No, let my cars collect dust, okay? All right? Now, point is, if you actually can afford the car, you can afford to let it sit. The problem is people want to buy a Lambo when they can't afford it. What does that go back to? That goes back to what Marquette said about poor people trying to live like wealthy people. Stay in your lane, then you can maybe upgrade to move to the left to one of them higher speed lanes. But the problem is that you're trying to drive too fast in your current lane. You have to build up things, huh? I haven't heard of, this is funny as hell. People say the most ridiculous things. I was talking to someone, young person. I wasn't even talking to this other dude. I'm talking to the dude who wanted to understand. I was in Vienna, in Austria. I was in Austria. I'm talking to a young Arab kid, right? There's two kids there, both Arabs. I'm talking to one particular kid. And I'm explaining to him that when people are looking on Instagram and they want all of these things, they don't know the cost of these things. They don't know if these people actually own these things. For example, private flight is something that's very popular. People want to fly private. It's extraordinarily expensive. I almost never fly private unless I'm flying into somewhere where I absolutely despise the airport. Like, for example, in London, I hate Heathrow. If I got to fly into Heathrow, I'm going to try to find a way to fly in private because I despise that airport. But otherwise, I mostly never fly private. It's extraordinarily expensive. And so I'm explaining to him, like, people don't know the cost. They don't know these people are faking it. On Instagram, people use fake sets to look like a private airplane when it's not. I was like, so you don't understand these things. I was like, and truth be told, not everyone needs a Rolls Royce. Not everyone needs a this or a that or a Maybach or a Bugatti. And then the other kid says, yeah, but you have those things. So you don't think other people deserve to have those things? You got it. I was like, did these other people go to top 20 universities, 2 of them, and get degrees? No, they didn't. Did these other people work in excess of 80 hours a week, not on side hustles and gigs, but on one thing intensely for a decade? No, they didn't. Did these other people think of an innovative idea and pursue it endlessly and learn all of the technical skills and know-how to get it done? Did these other people live in 17 cities to expand a corporation around the goddamn planet Earth and abandon women and abandon opportunities and leave friendships and leave family away so you could hunt down the bag? Did they do that? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Did they forego parties and not drink and not use cigarettes and not use unnecessary expenses, sleep in cars and, sleep in cheap hotels while they're raising capital? No, they didn't. When you want to sacrifice at that level, let me know. I'll buy you a Maybach. You heard me? Yeah, I'll buy you a Maybach. You want to work for me and sacrifice at that level? I'll buy you a Maybach. Because that kind of work ethic is going to be multi-million-dollar work ethic. That's why they don't have it. And frankly, they don't deserve it. Okay? That's the problem. People want things they don't want to earn. They don't want to earn. Come on now. Yeah. And here's the funnier thing. This is the funny thing. This is the irony of all of this stuff. I don't want it anymore. You feel me? Like, I don't want any of this stuff anymore. All I want to do is go travel. That's all I want to do. You heard me? That's all I want to do. Go travel, lay up with a beautiful woman. You heard me? Plant a couple seeds here and there. That's all I want to do. Make some raps every now and then, hang out with my people, hang out with the saints, move around the earth 30, 50 deep. That's all I want to do. You heard me? That's it. Come on now. We still cooking. We cooking with oil, hot fire. Shout out to Joseph. He writes, thank you for this A1 level ism in a real way. May I also acknowledge Eric. He just got the How to Invest in Rental Property footage. Smart man. Now also acknowledge Gwinsley. He writes, as someone making 6 figures, I advise not using Uber Eats. Let me tell you guys what will save you a lot of money. A good woman save you so much money. And let me just describe some of the things that a good woman does. For many years, I've not done anything regular. Marquette, what do you mean regular? Like go to the grocery store, go to the cleaners, the people who press up my suits, the people who clean my fine dress shirts. Yeah, I haven't been to the cleaners. I don't know what that's about. Why? Because a good woman is like, oh yeah, like you want, I'm going to the cleaners. I'll take this, I'll take that, and I'll go pick it up in a couple of days. I'm gonna go grocery shopping. And a great woman will go grocery shopping multiple times a week because everything's fresh. You get fresh ingredients. You heard me? We don't even really need to use the refrigerator. We get fresh, everything fresh. She's gonna drive and go to the grocery store because that's actually her job. That's her purpose and her joy. And a good woman, man, she's enjoying her domestic duties and she's like, I want to try this recipe. Now, here's the thing. I'm really easy to please. I can actually eat the same thing 10 days in a row, literally 10 days in a row, 3 times a day. That's who I actually am. I'm an extremely simple, disciplined, robotic kind of individual. I can eat the same thing 3 times a day for 10 days. That's my real life. That's who I actually am. You hear me? But Shorty's over here like, oh, I want to try. I want to cook some chicken tagine. I want to make that Indian dish you had when you were in Mumbai, and like, oh yeah, I remember when you were in Greece. You really like this. I'm gonna make it. Go ahead, shit. Go ahead. You want to spend 3 hours making a meal? Go ahead. That's what you want to do. Fantastic. But you don't have to do regular things like that when you have a good woman around. She's going to do the grocery shopping. She's going to handle the laundry. I actually enjoy doing my own laundry, but she's going to handle the laundry. One thing I will not let someone else do is I got to iron my own dress shirts. Nobody knows how to iron them right. I got to iron it myself, goddammit. But groceries, laundry, cleaners, and probably a whole bunch of other things I never say thank you for because it's invisible when it's getting done. So shout out to all the good women. You dig? The ones who know how to love and serve a boss. So the point is, when you don't have a good woman, you end up in the grocery store. You hear me? Now, there's ways to maximize this stuff, but you end up in the grocery store. You end up at the cleaners. You're doing all of these things, which means that it's taken away from your time that you can use to grow profits. You see, like, I would much rather have her at the grocery store while I'm here thinking of another master plan. You feel me? I'd much rather have her at the cleaners while I'm here on a meeting with my tech team, for sure. But another thing is that in the West, we have such broken families and we're so prideful that we're not willing to do what Mexican immigrants do or Vietnamese immigrants do when they come to America, and they'll live multiple people to a small apartment until they can get something better. That's hustle. That's discipline. That's sacrifice. That's what you got to do. But in the West, we're so proud. Oh, I don't want to live with my parents. I don't want to live with my brother. I don't get along with so-and-so. Like, okay, but stop trying to live like a rich person before you're a rich person. You hear me? Live according to your means. Your means are you need to have a roommate. Your income means that you need to share a car, and that's okay. And you know what? The truth is, people who have actual values, they don't care about those things. When I talk to you, I'm assessing you based on what you communicate to me. You can hop out of a beat up Toyota. I'm going to take it into account, but the way you present yourself is going to be the most critical factor. Like, I look at the small things. Like, for example, like when people come to Assassin HQ, we have white walls. As you can see, we have white walls. There's some people that set things like right on the wall, and it's going to mark up the wall. Of course, I don't say anything. It's a small thing you expect when you have people in the space. The space is going to get like marked up and dirty and things like that. But what I'm watching is to see among you who are the most careful ones, who are the most detail-oriented ones, who are the ones who are awake. That's what I'm watching for, because I'm asking myself who's going to get confirmed next, who needs to go into a leadership position, who's the most competent, who's the most trustworthy. Like, if I watch people, I'm like, okay, that guy's not careful. So if I copy the key to Assassin headquarters so that you guys can run programming and run events out of the HQ when I'm gone, I'm not going to give the key to this guy who's not careful. This is the same guy that's going to walk out and forget to lock the door. This guy's going to forget to lock the door. That's no disrespect to him. It's just that's the kind of character he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you really have to understand that it's the details. And I remind you, businessmen, details, numbers, percentages. Come on now. Anyways, back to Gwensley. He writes, everything is marked up on Uber Eats. Government is stealing from you, and you got a stranger handing you food. That's another factor too. You ain't never lied. He writes 10 Uber Eats orders equals 2 to 3 weeks of grocery shopping. You ain't never lied. I need to stop that, but bad habits are hard to discard, but we must persevere. And the key is having good women around, but also being within a good culture. And I asked myself, how can we get the guys co-located as well as possible? I've considered buying some land and then like putting some low-cost tiny homes or manufactured homes until we can like build something bigger and grander. I also ask myself, what if there's a new construction apartment and then we all just move into the same apartment building? Because as they say, steel sharpens steel, but when you're around people with good habits, you're going to exercise good habits, and you'll be ashamed to demonstrate low habits in front of great men. Furthermore, when you're around people you like and respect, it's easier to go to the grocery store. Hey, bro, let's hit the grocery store. 4 or 5 of you guys head to the grocery store. It's a fun experience. It's a social experience. Or, every Sunday, hey guys, like let's do a little dinner every Sunday. Cool. Have the ladies get together, whip up something, and we all sit down and dine. Of course, we're going to contribute, pay our fair share. Never forget to do that. Pay your fair share into it. But when you're co-located, it's easier to live within your culture. When you're isolated as an atom, it's easy to get subsumed by the greater culture or lack thereof. You fall into, vice and weakness and loneliness as well. Don't forget about that one. Major factor in this modern world. May I also acknowledge via PayPal, shout out to Wayne, he writes, I'm now starting to bid on small contracts for the government and big business for sourcing items. Computers, for example, computers. How do I become first choice or stand out from other competitors / bidders? It's funny you mentioned that. Just recently, I saw not Judge Joe Brown, the other guy from Chicago, Judge Mathis. He was talking about there being radical changes occurring in government where there are no programs for minority business owners because they're allowing white women to qualify as a minority, even though they're not a minority. It's crazy. So historically, that would have been one avenue, get registered for the minority business or woman-owned business. But increasingly, there really is no embedded advantage there with regards to government contracting. The best advantage in business is doing something no one else can do in terms of product innovation, doing something that no one else is doing at that price. And when you're dealing with government or public schools or nonprofits, generally price is a major consideration. So as a result, you'd be wise to price out the big boys. And if you're going for contracts, generally the more established companies are going to have higher prices. So you should have lower overhead. You can outperform them on price, which generally I don't like to compete on price. I also don't like B2B business. I don't like B2G business. Seems like you're in both of those things. B2C is really the way to go. But those are the simple things. Innovate at a level no one else can, or B, allow them to save on pricing. And C, here's a critical one. Those are relationship-based pursuits. B2B and B2G, relationships. You get an introduction. There may be a formal process, but the process is a farce. It's a scam. It's a lie. You heard me? And you're talking to one who, I did a deal with the government of Puerto Rico. I did a deal with the government of South Korea. I did a deal with the government of China. Government. Not in one of those cases did I not have an advantage. Not in one of those cases was it just like, oh, Marquette, you have the best technology. I did also have the best technology, but I also had introductions. And when you got good product, check this out. So I'm gonna paint this picture for you. I got a fellowship. I was awarded a fellowship for doing some pretty remarkable work around the world, right? So I was awarded a fellowship for doing some pretty remarkable work. That gave me a contact with the Korean government. This contact said, hey, our government is having this global competition. You should try it out. I applied. Now, granted, I would have never known to apply if I didn't have this contact. So I applied. That part was pretty much blind. Like the first 3 steps, I just basically competed on a fair footing. Then once I was successful, Korean government invited me over. We did business there. We did good business. Now here comes the relationships and the contacts even deeper. The Puerto Rican government came over to Korea to figure out how do we attract capital to the island? How do we attract good tech companies, good companies in the medical industry? They had a number of tax incentives as well. And the Koreans said, oh, well, let us show you some of the entrepreneurs we have, and maybe you can talk to them and hear their story and hear why they chose to come to Korea as opposed to Israel or Germany or China or anywhere else. And so they introduced me. Hey, here's the head of such and such of the Puerto Rican government. Hey, I want to introduce you to Marquette Devon Burton. He's the CEO, blah, blah. Okay, cool. We talk. And then we exchange info. Then, I'm like, winter's hitting in South Korea. My office is firmly established. I'm like, you know what? I don't love the Korean women. There's a couple baddies, but the everyday thing, they're kind of sticking to their own. I wouldn't mind warmer weather, wouldn't mind some beaches. Boom, hit up my contact in Puerto Rico. Then they say, hey, we'd love to have you. We're actually bringing in a number of companies. So what happens? They bring me into Puerto Rico. We do a deal, government, private public partnership. Money's rolling in, set us up with an office, give us a grant, and we're rolling from there. So never do you want to go in blind without connections, thinking that it's a fair process. It's never a fair process. I shouldn't say never. It's rarely a fair process. Let's just say that. I'm not going to say never. It's rarely a fair process. Let's say that. That'd be the best way to state it. And you know what? You don't want it to be fair. You always want it to be unfair in your favor. That's the key to business, is take the advantage. You want to take the advantage. You're not trying to win a fair fight. You're trying to win an easy fight. You dig? Man, I like ownership so much. I don't even sell Sass and Water. When we had the conference, Saints came and they're like, hey, can I buy some? I was like, nah, take a couple cases for free. I ain't tripping, bro. Take some cases home. It's love, man. Like, you support my work, take a couple cases home. I don't even sell it. I just like ownership, entrepreneurship. And we had reached out to an unnamed water brand. I said, hey, I've spent tens of thousands on your water. We want to do a deal. They hit us back. I'm like, okay, we're done with your water. You can make water, me too. We're done with your water. Shout out to Eric. He writes, Peace of the Saints. I was watching the live and then went to hit a workout. I came back and I see the game is still flowing. Much appreciated, Saint. Peace of the Saints in a real way. May I acknowledge Mr. Wilson. He writes, I appreciate all the game throughout the years. Hopefully sometime soon I will have a major breakthrough and will be able to support the work on a larger scale. Salute to you. Well, I appreciate you just standing up. Shows that you're a real one. So appreciate you. And I promise you things will always get better. And the thing you have the most control over is your happiness and peace. And I trust that you have that in spades. Shout out to Jabrizi. He writes, player setup. I appreciate that. And I got the mic working. I actually had to plug it into a charger. I don't know how long it's going to last. It appears that it's still going. So beautiful thing. I don't know what the sound quality is. I'll have to play it back. Shout out to Ron. He writes, Peace to the Saints, paying what I owe, starting to listen to the live at work. I'm now home and you're still going in. I had to pay what I owe. That's how you know I got a lot of game. You feel me? A lot of these jokesters, that's why they got to have like all these sideshows and props and thoughts and all. They got props, thoughts, and sideshows. I just got game, no gimmicks. You dig? Shout out to JC supporting the work. Appreciate you. Now also acknowledge Main Saint Journal writes, have never contributed to a single content creator on here or anywhere, and likely won't again unless it's you. Genuinely appreciate the straight dope you drop daily. Peace of Saints. I appreciate that. And see, that means a lot to me. You feel me? Because, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I watch these other rascals on here. I'm like, bro, if you don't sit down and shut up, like, you got guys, you got a life coach who drives a Honda. Like, bro, nobody trying to learn how to drive a Honda. You got guys who pay for hoes, trying to teach you how to get hoes. Like, bro, like, nobody trying to turn into a trick like you. You got the passport bros that's getting poor girls in the third world. Man, I would say it's only a couple guys on here really doing the damn thing, but I couldn't even name any. Carrying on. So I appreciate you. That really does mean a lot to be acknowledged. Thank you very much. Shout out to Rakely Swimming writes, Marquette, I've never found my gateway inspiration to dressing professional / shirt tucked in daily. Man, oh man, that rainbow tweed. Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, man. He said that rainbow tweed vest on the black button-down shirt was elite pieces. I appreciate that, man. And see, this is something among players, man. Among players, you see, and this is what squares don't understand. You get a couple players together, man, you damn near think we flirting with each other because we just love the drip. I'm like, we got Kent Drippy Jr. over here, Flex Luther, and we just complimenting the drip because we among bosses. You feel me? There's no jealousy. We all leveled up, and we just love to to kind of swim in this high level, man. I love it. I really love it because the thing is, when I'm around bosses and they looking good, they're just a reflection of me. You dig? They're a reflection of me. I'm a compliment them. I'm damn near complimenting myself because we all here together as bosses. Yeah, sir. I appreciate that compliment. Shout out to the real ones. And the brother be coming on dropping game too. Don't doubt Wrigley Swimming. He be coming on dropping ism. Shout out to Beast. Shout out to the folks out in New Zealand. We need a section out that way. I think it's probably going to end up being in Australia. He writes, peace to the Saints. I made 21 wow in drop shipping last month. Shout out. That's a good take. Very much so. He writes, but discovered the product I'm selling is banned in the country, but somehow gets through customs with no issue. Okay. Should I continue selling or stop? Well, am I correct to assume that you're receiving a product into New Zealand and you're selling it locally in the domestic market? Am I to assume that, number one? And then number two, truthfully, this is a question you might be better off asking to two sources. Source number one, Google. Source number two, and do both of them, an attorney. The reason I say look at Google, because you want to look at precedent. Well, what is the precedent that people have been busted for this? What is the precedent that they're receiving jail time? What is the precedent of fines they might incur? There are some things that they're illegal, but everyone's doing it. There are certain countries I frequent that it's illegal to have a VPN. It's illegal to go to certain websites or use certain apps, but everyone uses a VPN. Everyone uses these apps. It's well known and pretty much tolerated by the regime. So you want to figure out, are there real consequences? And eventually, if there's going to be a real business for you, anytime something scales, you become more visible. So if that's the case, you want to figure out, how can I scale this? And, how do I provide for my long-term income? And there are ways to do it. So I would look at Google. What are the precedents? I would talk to an attorney, especially if you're a young guy, like, hey, I'm 21. I made more money than ever. What do you think about this? See if they'll just tell you for free. And if they require you to do a consultation or pay, some amount of money, pay it. You made $21,000. Pay it, but pay it to the lawyer who knows, and figure out what your possible consequences are. And remember this, when you're looking for an accountant or a lawyer, you want it to be someone you can vibe with and someone you trust. I've hired a lot of tax strategists, accountants, lawyers in various municipalities, countries. With a tax strategist, their goal should be to save you from paying any taxes whatsoever. Okay. Now, if you don't have a tax strategist that's on the same page and they're willing to do everything possible and also tell you hey, you could do this, but you might catch a fine for doing this. You could do this, but this is officially illegal. I want all my options. Let me know what all the options are. That's what a good lawyer does. That's what a good tax strategist does. And I've been in countries where the tax strategist says, hey, I want to let you know, if you do this, you're going to get a fine, but the fine is $3,000. And if you do this, you'll get fined $3,000, but you'll make $80,000. So I tell all my clients, this is the law. I'm encouraging you to break the law unofficially. Cool. Fantastic. We're speaking in confidence. Let's go that route. I want a tax strategist who I feel comfortable enough that we're speaking confidentially, and they're going to give me the best case scenario. They're going to let me know what my options are, and then together we can find the best option. Now, of course, I don't want you to be on some Martin Shkreli stuff. I don't want you to be on some goddamn Enron stuff. I want you to play the game the right way. And if you break the rules too badly, you're going to go down. You don't want to break the rules. You want to bend them as much as you can, okay? So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. And you need the Book of Dark Truths. You need the Book of Dark Truths, for sure. Because you're in those waters right now. Shout out to Rakeley. He writes, it's funny how I'm telling people they need the Book of Dark Truths and I'm not even selling it. That's crazy, right? You guys got to start coming to the events. Now, granted, it's sold out. All of them sell out, but still, you just need to try harder, be faster. Shout out to Rakeley. He writes, when I learned to sell, my teacher stated, quote, if your product was 100% successful, how would you talk about it? I like that. That tells people how to feel about the product. Yes, sir. And feelings are important, truth be told. Selling is emotional. Oh, there he is. Selling is emotional, and your buyers feel that. Peace to the saints. I told you he drops game. How did I know he was going to come back with some ism? I knew it. Shout out to Jay Hurd supporting the work. I appreciate you. I also acknowledge Quentin writes, peace of the saints. Hey, Marquette. If I'm a member on Marquettism, Right. It actually, they all have the same content. So if you believe there's content that you're missing, send an email to jason@marquettism.com, or if you feel the need to cancel your membership there and join at the Assassin, feel free to do so. But it is the same content across all of the sites, with the difference being Patreon we don't own, but the content is there. So sometimes we might modify a title on Patreon because they actually are quite liberal. And so we have had situations where they censored us. Shout out to Beast supporting the work. I appreciate it. May I also acknowledge Ethan. He writes, enjoying conference 1 and 2, almost missed the ism. There you go. It's certified, highly recommended. Ethan recommends it. Get it for your own good. I was there. Urgency. That's why, urgency. And one thing that I heard from the great Dr. Ben Carson, who is a great man, not a great politician, but a great man, no doubt, a world-class pioneering surgeon. He said, a busy person is going to take a little bit of time and do it immediately. A person who is not busy, they're going to take a long time to do nothing. And he has never lied. That's right. People who are actually busy, they don't have time to play games. They got to go get it done because they'll forget about it. They'll forget about you. So that's why when you hear a lot of these pickup artists, they'll say, "Oh, fellas, I like to wait a couple of days before I text her back. Just let her know that I got other things going on in my life." No, if I want to text her, I'll do it straight away because I'm busy. If I wait 3 days, I will have met someone else more interesting. I would have forgotten about her, or I'll be in a totally different country anyways. So now we're gonna go in straight away. You dig? I also acknowledge Noor. Good to see you. Writes, paying what I owe, enjoying the ism as always, and still referencing Boss University Weekly. Exactly. That's what you're supposed to do, because it will give you the fix up and reconditioning that you need. I kid you not. There's sometimes I go out in this world and I have an experience and I say, I wasn't sharp. I really wish this morning I would have reviewed certain daily lessons. There's certain levels of sharpness. Like, for example, I'm a boss. I don't answer people's questions, especially if I don't know you. I don't know what your intention is. That's a daily preset in a saint's mind. I don't answer your questions. I don't know you. We're not going to be playing cops and robbers here. We're not going through an interrogation process. So there was a certain situation. A guy walked by Assassin HQ and he's like, "Oh, hey, what do you do? What's this? What's that? What's that? Where are you from?" He asked 30 questions. I was like, "Why am I answering your questions? Bro, get out of here." I didn't say it like that rudely, but I could tell that it was not a proper conversation. He was fishing, you see. And this is something I advise you guys when you're spitting game at females. Often when you're engaging in what is supposed to be conversation, it feels like interrogation because you're just machine gun firing questions. You're not contributing to the conversation by sharing a little bit about yourself. There's no arc. There's no narrative and story. It's just like, how old are you? Oh, where are you from? What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tomorrow? It's like you just keep machine gunning questions. That's not proper communication. And you should be suspicious of persons like that. And that's why a lot of guys, their game gets swatted down because they're too robotic about it. You feel me? They don't have any finesse with it. And talk about product, you dig? So basic training, it talks about female nature, which is important to understand, and also woman culture. That's different. How to be a winning businessman, which you should all be. Power talk and power moves. This piece, I really should also take this and pop this into the Master Communicator course. Someone might send me an email to have me add it. This is so important, especially as a man. And then also our assassin security training, which all of you guys need this one. Everyone needs to get basic training. You definitely want to be up on our assassin security training. And you can see the difference in who's had it and who hasn't when they show up to our events. I'll probably be speaking on the assassin security training tomorrow. But I advise everyone to get this, and I need to remember to start making this like something that's required. So, Jason, if you're on, we need to add this to the new member orientation because assassin security is that important. And I don't have any required education, but I think assassin security needs to be a required part because that is for your own good. When we give you that training, it is going to improve your level of militance and your ability to really thrive as a protector of yourself, of your women, and of the other people you regard. Hugely important. Anyways, what else we got here? Just real quick. Conference 4. Damn, I did a conference 4? That's crazy. I did 4 conferences. That's amazing. This one, oh yeah, so this one is broken up into episodes. This one actually had a real emergency doctor. Yes, I brought in an emergency physician. You might say, Marquette, why did you bring in an emergency physician? One, I've known her for many years. And I brought in Dr. Martin specifically because I talked to you about health, wealth, and relationships. Health, wealth, and relationships. Health. That's why I brought her in. I take it seriously. Health is absolutely critical. And you often hear older people talking about health. Now, me, I could run through a wall. You dig? I don't get sick. I don't go to the hospital. I don't break bones. No, I'm in mint condition. You dig? Only 2 times I ever got sick was by government-created diseases. And you guys know which ones I'm talking about. I don't want to say it on the stream. But I want to bring her in so that you guys can manage your own health, because we're in this era where we appeal to experts too much, and sometimes they lie to us. Sometimes they tell us that vaccines are vaccines when really they don't work. But I want you to be armed with some basic medical knowledge to take care of yourself. That's why I did that. So over time, you guys are going to see like, man, this guy really is trying to help us take care of the most critical things. As you can see, it says medical tools you can use to manage your own health. Right here, this one is, when to get a second opinion. This one is critical. I want to give you guys just a really quick story. And this is how people try to do you. And this is why I talk to you guys sometimes about wealth and how like it changes your experience. Remember one time I pulled up to the dentist, right? I pulled up to the parking at the dentist. I go in, I get in the seat, and I'm going in for a specific issue. And a specific issue which was fairly minor. And they're looking out the window, and I could hear them like telling, oh, whose car is that? It's my car. I'm not going to say that, but it's my car. Then they eventually put it together that it's my car. They're looking through the blinds. Oh, it's this guy's car. Then the female dentist, she tells me what it would cost to repair the small break I had in a rear molar. She says, oh, you know what? Like this happened and that happened. So you really need to have this tooth removed. I was like, what? I had a minor break. Like the tooth is cracked. Like what? I've never had a cavity, never had any major work at all. Like no root, nothing. She's telling me all of a sudden, you got to remove the tooth. You got to put a new tooth, drill it into your jawbone. Just crazy stuff. I was like, okay, how much is that? She was like, oh, like we can give you a deal, give you a discount. That'll be about $13,000. Oh, okay. Fascinating. Fortunately, I've talked to Dr. Martin, and she tells me always get another opinion. She says, even though it's a doctor or a dentist, which is an expert, this is also an opinion. They're giving you their opinion. So right here, it says when to get a second opinion. Also, my assistant was there, who's super sharp. My assistant is very sharp, very womanly. And so we're like, okay, fantastic. We'll consider coming back. We'll follow up the schedule. So we leave. My assistant straight away books me two more dentists. I go to the next one. I don't say anything. Hey, I got this issue. They take a look. They're like, oh, yeah, no problem. We'll just pull out this little fragment. We'll fill it in with composite. It costs like $300. You mean I don't have like any nerve damage, or like I don't have any like exposed nerves, or like the tooth is like, okay, the tooth is healthy? They're like, yeah, for sure. The tooth is fine. You just need to fill it in with composite and you can go. You wouldn't even need to numb you. It's very simple. I was like, you don't need to take the tooth out. You don't need to like implant a new fake tooth into my jawbone. They're like, what are you talking? Like, what are you? I was like, okay, because the last dentist thought that I needed a whole new tooth and I need to pay them $13,000. They're like, what? That's crazy. That's completely wrong. Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. And you might not be as fortunate as me. Maybe you're not going into the dentist and your mother's there, or your father's there, or your girlfriend or your assistant, and you're just in their dolo. You got to have your thinking cap on. And the sad reality is we're in a world where people are deceitful and they like to cheat. And that dentist was trying to cheat me in the most vicious way. She was going to give me a false tooth, which is not as good as a real tooth, and charge me $13,000 to hurt me. Imagine that. Let me just look into the camera on that one. Baby was trying to charge me $13,000 to hurt me. Wow, that's a sick world. It really is. That's insane. And this says questions you must ask your doctor. Often we deal with authority figures. We don't ask questions. Yeah, you should ask questions to your doctor. Turns out, by the way, you're paying for your doctor, in case you didn't know. Even if you're on government insurance, you're paying for your doctor. Conference 4 is on how do you test if a product is going to survive on Amazon. So if you have a product, you want to put it on Amazon, Mark gives you all of the specific tests you can run to figure out if it's going to make you money. He also goes through pricing strategy, and I go through business mindset. Another one is Conference 4. I go through mindset in general. It's a general piece on mindset you need to have for success. I talk about personal finance. I think everyone who is not confident or comfortable in terms of how I should be spending my monthly budget, you need that. If you don't get whatever your sum of money is from your working hours each month, and you're not like, okay, I should allocate this percentage to housing, this percentage to discretionary, going out, seeing the movies, going on dates, this percentage to these things, this percentage to future, investments, things like that. If you don't have a sense of that, you need to buy that. It's on personal finance. Your mom didn't teach you, your dad didn't teach you, and your school didn't have a personal finance course, even though every school should. And the reason that they don't have it is I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, that one's on personal finance. It's on stock for dummies. If you're like trying to figure out like, well, Mark, what is the stock market? How do I like drop a couple coins in there? I hear I should have stock. What's that about? Also, people don't know anything about 401ks or IRA. We talk about that. Preparing for your future so that you can actually retire comfortably instead of living in like, the old people's version of a project when you're in old age. And also why real estate now. I really enjoyed this one. And this goes back to what I was teaching the young man earlier who had told me about inflation. He was like, oh, Marquette, inflation is killing me. Well, this is why real estate now. Also, this is all of the Conference 3 footage. I think it'll break down the details of what's included, which is the personal finance piece, how to develop a product-based business, how to do fulfillment on Amazon, which is not easy. You actually do need that broken down. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I find fulfillment by Amazon to involve so much detail, so many steps. I'm like, I don't really want the money. I don't want it. How to mint your own cryptocurrency, how to sell your own NFTs. So for those of you who want to know what an NFT is, how to create and sell NFTs, cryptocurrency, boom, Conference 3. There you go. And somebody asked about negotiation. Here it is, the art and science of negotiation in business and in relationships. That's in Conference 3. I probably should break that out so people can purchase just that if they would like, because that is such a hugely important session. I should probably break that out. Maybe one day I will, but that's an important session right there. Super, super important. Negotiation. Okay, then you got the Black Box audiobook. Here's Conference 1 and 2. Okay, does not tell you exactly what that is, but Conference 2, in case you didn't know, that's the deep dive on product-based business. How do you pick a product? How do you get a sample? How do you get it manufactured? How do you sell it? How do you market it? It goes into all of that. And of course, here's a Black Box on ebook for those of you who would like a low-cost copy. There you go. That was a far-reaching answer for the gentleman who had asked about what's included in terms of knowledge in the conference footage. So there you go. Okay, now let's catch up. Where were we? May I acknowledge Ethan? He writes, just got laid off from Tesla last week. You know what? I was reading about that, and I'm sorry to hear that. I'm interested in these kinds of things because I invest in stock, right? Even though I don't really promote that very much. I used to do stock investing videos, but I do invest in stock, and it's somewhere to put some money, right? And when Tesla's laying off a bunch of employees, I asked myself, okay, is Tesla collapsing as a corporation, as a company? Are they collapsing? Are they cutting the fat? Is their product still good? And, Tesla product is phenomenal in my opinion. I don't drive a Tesla. I've been in many Teslas. It's really the fan favorite. Consumers love Tesla. According to Elon Musk, it was a high selling car last year, which I believe. And it was also far more expensive than the second highest selling car, which tells us a lot about the ability of Tesla to modify price if they want. If you have price elasticity, that lets you know you have good product. If you have a higher price than the competition you're outselling, you have good product. So if I know a business has good product and their share price starts to tank, I'm buying some. And in fact, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been buying a lot of, I don't know why I said I'm not going to lie to you. I guess it's because I don't promote stock, but I've been buying a ton of stock recently. Let me tell you a little bit about what I've been buying. I've already sold some of it too because I've been getting some good buys and they've been turning around really quickly. I bought some Trump. What was Trump's company? Give me a second.
Trump's company had took a dive recently, and I went in and bought some, and then it turned around in like 48 hours. It's called Trump Media and Technology Group. I saw them take a big dive. I think they lost about 16% in 24 hours. I went in, checked out, what was going on, checked the news. And I was like, okay, I think things are in order. I think it'll recover. Bought a decent amount of it, not too much. I'm diversified. And then the stock turned around within 48 hours. It returned me like 24%, which is excellent. It's excellent. Super villain laugh. You dig? But I'll tell you guys what I got in terms of stock right now, which usually I don't like to discuss my personal business, but I want you guys to be educated, honestly. I want you guys to be educated and have a sense of what I'm buying, maybe a little bit about why I'm buying it. So I'm not going to tell you everything that's in my portfolio. There's one company I'm not about to name. There's a second company I'm not going to name. There's a third company I'm not going to name. There's a fourth one I'm not going to name. A fifth one. A sixth one I'm not going to name. And the reason is because I'd have to elaborate because they're not companies you readily recognize. Like if I said Nike, but I know what Nike is. Like the first six you would not readily recognize. One of the six, though, is a very, very, very large Chinese tech company. And I believe they're too big to fail. So I saw that they took a tank and I was like, oh, this is the biggest fill in the blank in China. I'm buying some. They're not going to fail. And already they're back up. So that's good. Also Guess, which is it's supposed to be like an upscale brand. I've never bought any Guess, not on purpose. I'm not impressed. I never met a broad who really wears Guess. I remember when I was a kid, my cousins in San Diego used to think Guess was like the thing. But, I saw they took a little dive. I bought some. And I always check the news when I'm buying. And I think about product and their backup. That's nice. I bought another company I'm not going to name. I bought some Harley Davidson, which is an American staple. They have a great brand. They took a dive. I bought them. They're back up. I bought some Simpson Manufacturing. A lot of times with heavy industry manufacturing companies, they're experiencing supply chain issues. They're also experiencing reduced demand, which is just because of Joe Biden's economy. So I know that they're going to recover. And these are core essential companies that factor into automotive. They factor into the war economy. And America is going to continue being at war. We're going to continue financing wars, sending out weaponry. So I was like, yeah, heavy manufacturing. I love manufacturing. It's just taking a temporary dive. I'm getting some. I bought some Southwest, which I frankly don't like Southwest. I'm not very optimistic about Southwest, but I took a little bit. They're just above what I bought, so no losses, just marginal gains. I was kind of like, but I was like, I'm buying stock today. So I got a little bit of Southwest, even though I was like not very optimistic about them. I got some Whirlpool. They're marginally up. I got some Meta. Meta took a little dive. And that's because they've had a lot of things that they've not performed well on. I think their investments in AI, I don't think as far as the public and the investors concerned that they've gotten like the returns on that AI investment. But Meta has a huge market share, huge amount of data. I think Zuckerberg is going to continue pulling off miracles. So I bought some Meta, which I don't know if I've owned Meta before. Maybe I've not seen it tank before, but I got some Meta. I also got some IBM because they're a core technology. Strong company. I got some Caterpillar. Caterpillar is core to rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding cities after we bombed them, or, so I know Caterpillar and these types of companies are going to do well. I got some CarMax because I actually really like the way they do business. I've done business with CarMax a few times. It was a very efficient process. I think they have a good business there. I got another company I won't name. I got some Tesla as well because I'm long on product, even though Tesla is going to suffer in the short term. I got some JB Hunt because I personally know executives that are high up at no comment. I got some DraftKings because vice-based businesses are always great businesses. When people are gambling, these are addiction businesses. So I love businesses where the consumers are addicts, right? It's like drugs sell themselves. So I got some of that. I got some Boeing because I think Boeing is critical to our war efforts. And so when you have heavy industry, aerospace companies, airplane manufacturers, these kind of guys, I don't think they're going to fail. I got another company I'm not going to name, another company I'm not going to name, another company I'm not going to name. And the other company I'm not going to name, I'm not going to name. I got another company I'm not going to, let me see if I'm going to name any of these companies. I did get some JetBlue, and they've been struggling a lot, but I've only flown on JetBlue maybe 2 times in my life, but they have free Wi-Fi the second time I flew. And I thought for a budget airline, that's really impressive to have free Wi-Fi. I thought that was really neat. They don't nickel and dime you. And I think over time, good business practices are going to win out. And the reason I bought JetBlue stock is because who's their competitor? Spirit Airlines, Frontier Airlines. People despise Spirit and Frontier. They have atrocious brand equity. People talk negative about them. I think eventually that'll take a toll. So I like the way JetBlue does business in the bargain brand airline space. So I did get some JetBlue. They're currently down from when I bought them. I got Reddit. They're down from when I bought them. And I got Rivian. They're down from when I bought them. All three of those companies, I'm long on. I'm long on those companies. I'm long on JetBlue for what I just described. I'm long on Rivian because I've seen their cars around Las Vegas. And every time I see them, I'm like, that's a good looking car. And I know they're not expensive. If they were expensive, I'd know more about them. I might own one, right? I know they're not expensive, but they look good. And I was like, I like what they're doing. So I'll take a chance on them. And Reddit, I don't like the product very much, but it's a product that I felt like I've been obligated to use. A lot of people in the YouTube space, they use Reddit, and I felt obligated to use it. So that lets me know that this is a product that is sticky. Not a new company, but it's sticky. So I was like, I'll take some Reddit. I'm long on Reddit. I'm also following a number of other companies, which I'll mention briefly here. Giving you guys a lot of game right here. The people who are really trill are like writing down these names. There's too much game. I'm not sharing what I'm watching. I'm not telling you. I'm not sharing it. Anyways, the gentleman writes, do you recommend a consultation or a course? Well, it depends on what your goal is, Saint. What are you trying to do right now? Are you trying to get another job? Are you trying to start a product-based business? And also, what were you laid off from? Were you the guy who puts the tire on the car? Were you in the back office? Were you at a Tesla dealership? Do they even have dealerships? Who knows? But the point is, what job were you doing? Which is say, what is your skill set? And then what is your goal? So if your question is a reflection of your current mindset, meaning maybe a bit confused, maybe a bit uncertain, then you need a consultation. I can't recommend a course to you because if you're going to invest in a course, I want you to go into that course to take out something specific that you can apply to a specific outcome. So you might need a consultation. For those of you who want to have a consultation with me, you can book that at thesassin.com. That's THESASN.com. Thank you for that question, Ethan. I'm wishing you much success and peace as you go through this transition. Shout out to the art of violence. Funny. Shout out to Mr. Chambliss. He writes, what's the title of the French or Creole song in Love Who You? Bruh, I don't know. I do not even know. But I'm sure there's someone in the chat. If you've got my album, which you can find on Spotify, Love Who Love You is one of the songs. He's asking, what is the name of that original song? And I'd like to know too. Let me know once you guys find it. Shout out to Lucas. He writes, Marquette, learning about your product for schools has been fire because mine is 3D tours for facilities like schools. Okay. And this technology has been used in the real estate space for sure. So definitely take a look at that. He writes, do you have any tips on reaching the real decision makers for selling to schools? Bro, don't sell to schools. It's a hard business. I highly recommend against it. And I was successful at that, mind you. I was successful at it, and I'm recommending against it. I remember when I met a partner at Holland and Knight law firm, which I think was Holland and Knight. He was a partner there. He was making $1 million plus. He was a black gentleman, very successful lawyer. And I told him, I want to be a lawyer just like you. And he said, nope, don't do it. Get an MBA, go into business. He said this, I'll never forget it. He said it to me when I was 16, because to observe attentively is to remember distinctly. And he said the following words verbatim. He said, get an MBA. There are easier ways to make money. And I took that to heart. He writes, their mindset for buying. Yeah, their mindset for buying is usually saving money or getting things for free.